a weak scolding look. Andres whispered, that's a weak sauce glare. But sprinkles on top. The boy snickered. Tut tut, hardly any of you remembered that my favorite color is lilac. I say so in Year with the Yeti, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Rowling 100. But very good, Mr. Sun, it seems like you've got all the questions right. Lockhart's voice was full of praise. Too bad, Gohan said under his breath. More Spanish snickers. Yes, my favorite Muggle singer is Celine Dion. Now let's look at the last question. Yes, my birthday is 1955 March 2. Let me read the last part as you wrote it. Your ideal gift would be a new set of posh French curlers to fulfill your dreams of beautiful golden locks of girly hair, not that there's anything wrong with that, mind you. That's exactly right, Mr. Sun. An uproar of laughter filled the class, perplexing Lockhart. Here he read what Gohan wrote and blushed madly. For the first time ever, his smile was gone and in its place was a menacing scowl. Holy shit, Gohan. That's not a weak sauce scowl with sprinkles on top. Gohan-san. Detention and 50 points from Slytherin. Lockhart said, his forget-me-not blue eyes fixed firmly on the Saiyan. Gohan gave Lockhart a superfluous sulking frown. But I only got one question wrong. Insulting a teacher is not allowed. Does that mean I can't give you the curlers I was going to buy for your birthday? Another uproar of laughter filled the room. Lockhart attempted to calm the boisterous class, but it was to no avail. He was fraught with embarrassment and was glad that the bell rang almost immediately after the question. Good one, Gohan, good one. Andres clumsily said through his bubbling mirth. Thanks, it was worth the detention. But I have to get going, I need to apologize to Vidal. I'll see you for dinner, okay? Yeah, that's fine. Good luck, though. You'll need it. Thanks for being sunshine and lollipops. Andres gave him a sheepish grin. I'm right and you know it. Yeah, I know. See you soon, Andres. Yup, see ya. Gohan departed and went jogging towards Vidal's Kai signature. Wait, Vidal. Vidal tensed up at the sound of her enemy's voice and refrained from turning around. She sped up her stride alongside her friends. A few seconds later, she felt his hand clasped firmly on her shoulder. What do you want? She snarled and whipped around. Arasa glared at Gohan. Stop bothering Vidal, you jerk. Ed weeb, or I'll kick your ass. Gohan awkwardly chuckled. I just want to say I'm sorry. I did a terrible thing and I understand that you're angry. I'm not forgiving you, Vidal said, her tone flat. And I understand that. All I wanted to do was apologize to you and inform you that I'll give you my phone with a video on it. No other Muggle technology will work here, so I wouldn't be able to show anyone the video without my phone even if I wanted to. Vidal eyed him suspiciously, but then shrugged and held out her hand. Gohan gave her the phone and immediately the trio left without a word. Vidal snuck a glance back. To be honest, she was over the video. Really, she was just disgusted Sun would stoop so low. And something good came about it. She now had a piece of Muggle technology that magically worked in Hogwarts and would be a major clue on her budding quest to figure out his secrets. Gohan sighed. He partly regretted handing over the phone. Maybe it was stupid, rash. She was smart enough to put two and two together. But he felt immense guilt, shame, and even if there had been an alternative, it felt right, at least as a first step to making amends. Why did I have to act like such a dick? The young Saiyan had found an empty classroom after dinner. He sat at a creaky desk and then pulled out his magic Veggie Ball. Vegeta. Gohan yelled at his MVP. He waited patiently, but over a minute elapsed and nothing happened. Vegeta, he yelled louder. Nothing. Damn it. Out of nowhere, he heard a roar. Stop your damn laughing, woman. Get this pink dress off of me, in effect from the hell ball for not consoling the brat. What? No one makes me stop my training. What the hell? Gohan fell out of the desk and started laughing madly. A pink dress. Oh Kami, I'll never let him forget this. For once, thank you Dand. Gohan tried to compose himself when he heard a snarl and realized that Vegeta was huffily standing in the black background of the ball. What do you want, brat? And why are you laughing? The image of Vegeta, slick with sweat, growled as Gohan smirked at him. Oh, Veggie head, what's this about you in a pink dress? The vein popped out on Vegeta's head and pulsated with anger. Nothing. You must have become crazier than I thought you would become with all those whack jobs around, he scathingly replied. Please, Vegeta, I heard you from my magic Veggie Ball. Isn't this thing great? Frankly, I think it's a nice change from those awfully dull spandex you walk around in all the time. I'm sure the dress accentuates your slim curves and ample bottom quite well. Vegeta was incredibly close to blasting the MVP to hell, but he controlled himself, an arduous task for the Saiyan Prince. The Prince of Saiyan simply huffed and firmly crossed his arms. What do you want, brat? I don't have time for your foolishness. I have to return to my training as soon as possible. Gohan's smirk evaporated. Truthfully, I don't know where to go to, Vegeta, and I've argued with myself over this for quite a while. I'm not sure whether I should follow Mirai's advice on this matter or. Vegeta glared at him, irritated by his lack of straightforwardness. Hurry up, brat. Geez, Veggie head, are you sure you're not missing? You're a little bitchy today. Vegeta's hair turned blonde and eyes teal. Shut up you damn brat and tell me what the hell you want. Gohan pouted. Fine then, Vegeta. You ruin all the fun. Vegeta scoffed and went back to his base form. I make all the fun. Sure Veggie head, keep telling yourself that. Okay, so I wanted to ask you about a girl that I really like. Vegeta arrogantly smirked. Girl trouble. Oh, you've definitely come to the right place. Not just possibly the right place, but our situations are kind of similar. Bulma thought you were an evil bastard when we came back to Earth after Frieza, right? Yes, she was afraid to even live in the same house as me. Vegeta cackled. Good times, good times. I never had more power to strike fear in her than I did then. Reminiscing Veggie head now that you're her monkey bitch. Boom. Alright. Super angry Saiyan transformation, he'll say something like if you screw with me again, I'll blow some shit up and teach your half-breed ass a lesson in respect blah blah blah. If you screw with me again, I'll blow this fucking ball, go over to your damn shoe, and teach your half-breed ass a lesson in respect. Gohan yawned, further enraging the Saiyan. Honestly Vegeta, you're becoming predictable. It gets kinda boring, you know. Vegeta calmed down a bit. He knew if he continued with his diatribe, he would be playing right into the cunning half-Saiyan's hands. Now that we are back to our previous civil conduct, Vegeta scoffed again. I'll tell you about my problem. If I simplify it, it's like this. I tricked a girl and she got pissed off at me and doesn't want to be with me anymore because she thinks I'm an asshole. So, what do you recommend I do? I say don't waste your time with a girl. If she gets pissed off over a stupid trick, who knows what it'll be like living with her. It wasn't just a trick. It was worse. Vegeta raised an eyebrow at him. So the Saiyan in you has finally emerged. Not that bad. Let's just say she has a right to feel how she's feeling. This is similar to your previous situation with Bulma, correct? Vegeta nodded. Then what did you do to get Bulma? A dark grin crept up on Vegeta's hard face. Gohan gulped nervously. I knew this was a bad idea. I got the woman in my bed, that's what. In the beginning, she tried to slap, bite me, smack me, whatever she could to get out of my grasp. But a few minutes in, extraordinarily aroused, soaking wet from my absolute dominance, she ravished me with sex. Are you planning to employ my method, boy? Vegeta eerily smirked at him. Oh Kami, why did I have to ask you Vegeta? Even Trunks' advice is better than yours. Vegeta snorted. Nonsense. The only action he gets is from slutty fangirls. Gohan chuckled. I know. I met them one time and it was Gohan shuddered. God awful. I never thought there could be anyone stupider than your father, but I was proven wrong when I met them. Gohan glared at Vegeta. Screw you, Vegeta. Remind me to kick your ass the first time I see you when I come back for the holidays. Vegeta cackled and repeatedly nodded. What a ludicrous statement. Sure, whatever brat. So I've gained nothing, except bonding time with my favorite person in the whole world. Bye Vegeta. Thanks for nothing. Vegeta sneered. It's your fault brat for not following my advice. Autumn took hold as summer lost its grip. Hot and humid days became chilly and dry. The days winded down sooner and the dark nights lengthened accordingly. To Gohan, the occasional wind was like a dirge, a constant reminder of his mistakes. His cheerfulness was flaccid, lacking the color and complexity of genuine happiness. His Spanish friend was never convinced that Gohan had gotten over Ginny. Andres, however, did not make any attempts to help his friend overcome his gloom. A storm no matter how strong died out eventually was his rationale. Who was he to possibly spur the storm? What else could he do to help that he hadn't already done? Why risk it when there was a definite conclusion? But Andres didn't know exactly what Gohan felt. Gohan still felt guilt of course, still missed Ginny, but he was also worried. Gohan, unlike Andres, noticed Ginny's strange aloofness. Ginny had rarely been going to the suppers. Many times, her Kai signature would disappear without a trace, completely baffling Gohan. Her usual bright color had been replaced by an unhealthy pallor. A few weeks ago Gohan had asked himself if it was his fault. Was she not going to dinner because of him? His suspicions were shot down when he realized that she wasn't avoiding him. A few days after their breakup, she had tried her best to avoid the Saiyan, completely ignoring him whenever he tried to talk to her. That attitude took a U-turn 2 weeks later. He now oftentimes sat with her during breakfast, the one meal she usually showed up to, whenever Andres wasn't around, and she would not object. She would murmur a few words of conversation but nothing more. No spiteful feelings were now ever present. Her once warm eyes were now callous. All it seemed she felt for Gohan now was apathy. Gohan knew there was something terribly wrong. As much as he thought, he couldn't figure it out. He stopped his sparring with his mirror image. Looking deep into her eyes felt like being engulfed by darkness, a foreign darkness, not belonging in a young girl's eyes. Go-Hin sighed as he thought over the situation again and walked through the forbidden forest deep in thought. Vidal's crew still assailed him with vehement glares whenever he was near them. Barry and Hermione were cautiously accepting of him, even after the Ron incident. The conversation with the two during lunch that day went well. Hermione scathingly scolded him, but didn't hold hard feelings when Go-Hin told her exactly how he felt about what he did to Ginny. I was a stupid, arrogant, vengeful jerk, and I wish that I had never done that because I really like Ginny. Barry and Go-Hin would share the occasional laugh whenever Ron wasn't around. Ron hadn't said a word to him since the incident. After several minutes, he snapped out of his thoughts when he felt an unfamiliar chi. It didn't alarm him, however, since the person had a low chi, even for most humans. Still, he was worried for the person. Surely, he or she would realize it wasn't safe to be in the forest without company this late at night. He looked at his tattered guy skeptically, now mulling over what to do. He couldn't go out and help the person without the possibility of being questioned about his guy's condition, despite the fact that it didn't look that bad, since he was wearing long sleeves tonight, his body well covered. He would have to do something. Glamour charm. Go-Hin expertly produced a glamour charm to make it appear as if he were wearing his robes. At his age, he really shouldn't have been capable of that, but he was something else. He was a prodigy so advanced that according to his teachers, no one had ever known of any wizard or witch so good at such a young age. Dumbledore had inquired how he could cast a Protego shield after the Ron incident. The Saiyan had nonchalantly shrugged and told him he learned it from the books he read. Dumbledore had stared at him wide-eyed and then had chuckled. The blunt way Go-Hin put it amused him to no end. Go-Hin walked toward the source of the chi. He was surprised to see a small girl, about the age of a first year, serenely lying down, her protuberant silver eyes gazing at the glowing stars without a care in the world. She had long, straggly, silver blonde hair and very pale skin. Go-Hin couldn't help but smile at the scene. The girl looked so peaceful and free. He continued walking toward her. When he arrived just a few feet away from her, she didn't seem to notice him, her gaze on the stars unwavering. Go-Hin spoke up. "Hi, I'm Go-Hin's son." The girl trained her dreamy eyes on him. "Hello Go-Hin's son. I'm Luna Lovegood. If you would like to stay, you can sit here," she said, her voice filled with an otherworldly dreaminess while patting on the soft grass, motioning for him to accompany her. He decided to take up her invitation, sitting down on the exact spot she had patted. Her name lingered in his mind for a few moments. He was sure he had heard the name before. He shook off the feeling and redirected his thoughts to the present situation. "It's nice to meet you, Luna, but I would like to ask why you're here alone. It can get very dangerous here this late at night." Her eyes remained dreamy, bewildering Go-Hin. He had never seen anyone appear so serene. "I could ask you the same thing and in addition ask why your clothes are torn." Go-Hin attempted to cover up his surprise, but was unsuccessful. "I have a sort of a second sight that allows me to see through certain charms." The shocked Saiyan looked at her frostily. "Don't probe any further than that and don't tell anyone about this." His icy face died down at the sight of the unaffected faraway expression of Luna Lovegood. That should have been good enough to even make Vegeta feel nervous, but here she is so detached, almost as if she didn't hear me. "Since you don't seem to have any better reason to be out here, I guess that means you can't justify why I shouldn't be here," she said conversationally, paying no heed to his icy demands. Go-Hin wasn't sure if she was digressing from the topic of his torn clothes purposely or unconsciously. That still didn't ease the anxiety he felt about the possibility that she would grow suspicious of him. He couldn't allow any more slip-ups around this odd girl. "Yes I do." Go-Hin trailed off, not sure what to say. Telling her about his inhuman martial arts prowess was not the answer. "Oh dear, it seems like the Raxperts invaded your brain," Luna conversationally said. Go-Hin stared at her, perplexed. "Raxperts invading my brain? They're invisible things that float through the air and go inside the victim's ears, making their brain fuzzy." Go-Hin looked at the dreamy girl incredulously. "That's not possible. I've never heard of them and I've read books about magical creatures and they've never been mentioned. It seems like you haven't read The Quibbler." "The Quibbler? It also seems like you love reflecting what I've said. The Raxperts must have disabled you more than I had initially thought." She giggled a little at his derisive scowl. "I'll explain. The Quibbler is a magazine that my dad produces. He writes about a variety of magical creatures that aren't officially recognized as existing, but my dad and I know they do. People are simply too narrow-minded to believe so and scorn us for having faith in that which has not been disproven." Her voice was serene, lacking any edge to it. Go-Hin couldn't get over her fascinating calmness. She was something else. "I guess I can't tell you that they don't exist when there's no evidence to prove they don't," he happily exclaimed, a warm smile on his face, despite him knowing about who the burden of proof rested on. He liked this girl. He was going to support her, despite the logical fallacy she was committing. Anyway, she was entitled to believe what she wanted to believe, without having to deal with someone else's condescension or scorn. Luna beamed at him, her face very cheerful. She had never had another kid accept her belief so easily. So, do you have any tips on getting rid of Raxperts? Her smile grew brighter and she nodded. Yes. I've read that to get rid of them someone has to blow in the other person's ear and they will leave, repelled by the turbulence. Gohan grinned at her. Really? Well, get on with the blowing, Luna. I don't want my brain fuzzy anymore. Very well. She scooted closer toward him and lightly grasped his shoulder to better position herself. She blew into his ear, attempting rid his brain of Raxperts. Her warm breath tickled Gohan's ear like the tips of flowers on his skin, and he couldn't shake off the feeling that he was really enjoying himself. There. It seems like they're all gone. Feeling better? It was Gohan's turn to dreamily stare at her. Much better. She looked at him with bemused confusion. You really should cut that out, people might think you're a little odd. Gohan couldn't help but laugh at the irony of the comment. His brusque laugh startled Luna, her dreaminess dissipating slightly, but she then dreamily smiled at him again. So now that I have driven out the Raxperts, can you coherently state why you are more capable than I am at staying safe here? He would have to go with his famous, already known throughout the school, prodigal magical abilities. I am very well capable of defending myself with my magical abilities. A different dreamy smile crossed Luna's features. Gohan couldn't discern whether it was a mocking or friendly smile. Ah yes, your amazing magical talent. The talent so astounding, not one child in our age group has possessed such talent throughout all the history of magic. I've heard the professors speak of you with both praise and concern. Very well. It seems you are more than capable of protecting yourself. Nevertheless, it does not matter too much here. I've been out by the lake since the beginning of the school year and nothing bad has ever happened. Admittedly, the occasional turbulence and strange flashes of flight are quite startling, but don't worry about me. I'll be fine. Gohan tensed up at that. So she had in some way observed the things he did. Of course, he knew she hadn't seen him, but he also knew that if he slipped up anymore, she could easily derive a conclusion. Thankfully, the thoughts racing through his head did not translate to his appearance. He reluctantly agreed with her. Fine, you can keep up your evening routine, but I'm keeping you company tonight, he firmly said. She vaguely nodded, almost as if she wasn't actually listening to him. Out of nowhere, he recalled where he heard her name. Ginny had told him after their breakup that she was going to talk to her friend Luna. Could this be the same Luna? Excitement welled up in him at the possibility of learning what was wrong with Ginny, like a first breath of unsullied air. By the way, do you happen to know a Ginny Weasley? She tilted her head and looked at him, as if struggling to recall the name. Yes, I do. She is a friend of mine. I met her when I was a little girl. Why? Oh, wait, she spoke of you before. You were her boyfriend, correct? If it hadn't been Luna Lovegood asking that question, he would be nervously balancing on the thin wire of conversational civility with an ex-girlfriend's friend. Luna Lovegood was different, however. There was no trace of vindictiveness in her tone. She spoke mellifluously, her soothing voice reassuring him. There was no thin wire, no balancing act when one spoke with Luna Lovegood. She was a wide sea of fresh acceptance. Yes, I was. Unfortunately, I made one of the biggest mistakes of my life and she accordingly let me go, he almost nonchalantly said. He was surprised by how easy it was to say that. Luna seemed to radiate hope of something better, something he didn't entirely comprehend. She was the flicker of light in the darkness he had thought to be unending. I am glad to see that you have acknowledged your mistake, but unfortunately the damage has been done. I realize that, but what I would like to know, you being her friend and all, I assume that you know something why Ginny is so withdrawn and different. She's lost that cheerfulness about her that made her unique. She's lost her stubbornness, her fire. Now she's a distant, cold, apathetic mess. She's completely unrecognizable. And I know that it's not me who's changed her. Despite the seriousness of the Saiyan's question, Luna's eyes still had a faraway, dazed look about them, as if she were on some other level of consciousness, and she had no worries. Unfortunately, I hardly know more than you do about the situation. I have caught her spending most of her time with a diary, even when she's walking she carries it. I once asked her when she bought it and she uncharacteristically snarled at me. She was delusional, believing that I wanted to steal the diary away from her. But what could that have to do with her drastic change? Gohan looked downbeat by the lack of answers from Luna. No answers but more questions, he sullenly noted. Luna noticed his sadness and spoke up. I am also trying to understand what's happening with Ginny, Gohan. If you need any help, I'll gladly be there for you and help you however I can. The Saiyan gave her a small smile. Thanks, Luna. That means a lot to me. She stared at him for a long period of time, seemingly deep in thought, discomforting Gohan at the awkward silence and her continuous staring. Why does she have to look at me like that? It's so uncomfortable. Luna gave him a smile. You are different from most people. You're more accepting and a little dotty. Gohan grinned. I'm dotty. Now what does that make you? People call me loony, she bluntly said, startling Gohan with her candid comment. Soon, anger filled him. Why do they do that? He asked, his voice harsh. She shrugged. Because of my different beliefs, but honestly I don't really mind. They still shouldn't call you names. Don't worry, Gohan. It's nothing to concern you. His anger subsided and he gazed caringly at Luna. He wasn't sure what, but something about this girl made him very protective of her. In half an hour, he had formed an inexplicable bond with Luna. Yes, Luna, it does concern me. It greatly bothers me that people go around unjustly teasing someone else because they are different. It defies everything I stand for, and I will not allow it to continue. If I ever hear anyone call you loony, I'll make sure they cut it out permanently. Luna's eyes widened, utterly shocked, a reaction Gohan felt was quite challenging to get out of the blonde girl. You want to help me out? Absolutely. And you want to stop the other kids from teasing me? She airlessly questioned, unbelieving that someone actually wanted to help her out to such an extent. It seems like you're doing the reflecting now, Ms. Lovegood. Raxpert's making your brain fuzzy. Luna giggled. Maybe. How about you help me get rid of them, Gohan? Secrets Halloween. The bright wave of energy shot through the sky toward the half Saiyan, roaring its way at him. He narrowly avoided it by milliseconds. Gohan's mirror image took advantage of Gohan's moment of rest. A cry of pain filled the air, the mirror image having struck Gohan hard in the back with an overhand blow. His mirror image's strong arms then locked around Gohan's neck, choking Gohan, his grip unwaveringly strong. Gohan struggled for air. His mind raced as he attempted to come up with a spell to escape from the perilous situation. Any other day he would have muscled his way out of the grip, but tonight was a special night. The night reserved to warding his mirror image off with purely magic, speed, and strategy. What's the point? Vegeta had asked him once when they conversed, surprisingly civilly, with the MVP. Gohan explained he wanted to become a famous duelist in the magical world. Just as predicted, Vegeta snorted at the half Saiyan's aspirations. When his education at Hogwarts was finished, Gohan did not want to withdraw from the magical world. He wanted to embrace it. He wanted to throw away his mom's dreams of a scholar in the family. He didn't want to be a scholar, he wanted to be a magical duelist. Something far more exciting than a scholar. Of course, he would limit the use of his inhumane speed and strength in such duels in order to level the grounds as much as possible. It wouldn't be difficult to adjust to precisely the opponent's physical level when he gained enough control over his powers. Over the last couple of weeks, Gohan had learned from observation that Kai and magical energy were linked. One could influence the other. He suspected that eventually, it could be possible to send magic in Kai and magic. There were countless possibilities if this were the case. What advancements and discoveries could he make in such a new field? However, Gohan did not yet have a firm grasp on using his Kai to influence his magical energy or vice versa. Although Gohan noticed that his spells were significantly more powerful than his peers, his spells definitely weren't as strong as the professor's, at least not yet. If he were to continue advancing at the rate he was, he would surpass his professors in his 4th year. Dumbledore. Perhaps 7th year, but that was a lower bound, based on what he believed was the minimum of Dumbledore's power. Anapneo, Gohan whispered. His airway cleared, his throat strengthened, he had managed to modify the spell in such a way as to be useful in situations when one was being strangled, not simply choking on another object, and he smirked when his mirror image released him. Of course, his mirror image was as smart as he was, so the mirror image knew it would be futile to try to choke Gohan. Suddenly, Gohan apparated right behind his mirror image and wordlessly sent a Confundo charm toward his mirror image. Had he not been right behind his mirror image before he sent his Confundo charm, the mirror image would have dodged it, even despite this charm casting no light and making no sound. His spells were nowhere near as fast as his Kai blasts, unfortunately. Even an agile human could dodge them. That was something he'd have to fix if he ever hoped to use magic against the types of villains he was used to fighting. Gohan sent a strong banishing charm, hurtling towards his confused mirror image, the image unable to sense the spell rushing toward him, since neither one of them were capable of sensing magic. Finally, the banishing charm was strong enough to send his mirror image flying through the dark night. The charm itself wasn't particularly strong, but he realized over the nights that despite spells affecting him a good amount less than humans, they still had an effect, and so he would have to defend himself against someone trying to hurt him with magic, especially against a master of magic, although admittedly, he'd dodge their spells because he was ridiculously fast. They'd have to sneak up on him somehow. He wasn't some magical god capable of overwhelmingly powerful spells and immune to other spells, despite his godly Kai and marital arts ability, and Gohan liked that. It gave him a challenge to conquer. Do I really have to hang out more with you and your friends? Yes, Andres, you have to. The Spanish boy groaned. But why, Cho? It would be best if the relationship extended further than just between us. Your friends should get to know my friends. It would solidify our bond. Andres rolled his eyes. Bond? I'm in for the goodies, not for this bond she speaks of. Okay, sure, whatever you say. Joe fixed a stern gaze on the Spanish boy. I saw that eye roll. Andres gave her an ingratiating smile. Joe, I was just thinking about my best friend. I couldn't imagine him trying to be friends with your friends. The finagle worked. Too bad for him. It's mandatory. Hey, maybe I can hook him up with one of my friends. Andres smirked at that. He knew the Saiyan would not warm up to any of Joe's friends, especially in that way, and especially just a month after his incident with Ginny. Let's get this started today. Go get him and bring him to the courtyard. We'll be there. Okay, sure, see you soon, Joe. Bye, Andres. As soon as Joe left, Andres let out some laughs. This is going to very interesting. Once Andres found Gohan, he began to explain the situation. Well, first he grabbed his arm forcefully, trying to bring him along. You're coming with me. Hey. What are you doing, Spanish boy? Gohan ripped the hand away. Come on, Japanese boy. Why do you always need to know the facts? Gohan sent him a gold glare. Because who knows what the hell you're leading me into. For all I know, you could be trying to hook me up with some girl like all those other times. Andres innocently whistled. Whatever are you speaking of? Gohan had caught on to his friend's efforts to hook him up with a girl. The first 2 times, Andres had actually thought it would work. After that, he just did it for fun on annoy Gohan days. Even though your memory is terrible, I know that you know what I'm speaking of. Hey. My memory isn't shit. Gohan rolled up his sleeve, pretending to examine a watch. Tick-tock, whatever it is you want to do, know that there's 10 minutes left before classes resume. Shit. Okay, I'll be straightforward about this. Cho wants me to bring you along with me to talk with her friends to, in her words, solidify our bond. An amused expression grew on Gohan's face. Bond? What bullshit. Bond with Andres. PFFFF, you just want the goodies. Yeah, I know, but don't tell her that. Of course not. That would ruin our plans for 4th year. Both their eyes glazed over and they dreamily sighed in unison. 4th year, they snapped back to reality. So what's your decision? Hell no. Andres stared at his friend pleadingly, fixing his hands in a begging position. Come on, Gohan. Please. Gohan shook his head firmly, clearly unwilling to be dragged into Cho Chang's group. Who knows, it might be fun. Gohan scoffed. Fun. Talking to a bunch of stuck-up girls. They're Ravenclaws, but everyone knows that Cho's friends are the 3rd-year queens of gossip. Andres let out an enervated sigh. When will Mr. Know-it-all here realize that just because gossip can be insubstantial, it doesn't mean it's not fun? The day I start to fill my life with gossip. Which is? Never, Gohan flatly answered. Damn you, Gohan. Come on. Let's just go. Don't you think acquainting ourselves with people higher up on the social ladder will put us in a better position to fulfill our 4th year dreams? The Saiyan looked pensive for several seconds. Gohan rubbed his chin, and unknowingly to him, Andres mockingly did the same. Gohan's probably like, oh look at me, I'm so much sexier than you when I think. What a load of bull. Gohan then returned his gaze to Andres and caught his friend mocking him. What the hell were you doing? Andres' eyes widened anxiously. Oh nothing, nothing. You don't want an angry Gohan. Asshole. What? Andres gave him an innocent look. You know what? Now I'll pretend that never happened. Thank you, God, Andres whispered under his breath. Gohan slightly frowned, peeved about what was necessary. I guess we'll gradually progress through the ladder of hell and it'll make things easier in the future. So, sure. That's the spirit. Now come on, 8 minutes left. Oh Kami, why must I undergo this torture? Gohan acerbically stared at the girls appearing ever closer. I hate you, Andres. It's only for 5 minutes, man. You need to learn how to understand the female language anyway. Gohan raised an eyebrow. The female language. Andres smacked his face, as if ashamed of his friend's lack of knowledge. I guess years out in complete isolation didn't exactly help you. Well, I'll put it this way. It takes years of practice to learn to decipher the female language. Sometimes, they might say one thing, but they mean another. Like, you ask them if they want to make out, and they're like no, but they actually do want to. Gohan looked at him, dumbstruck. Why? Is it to trick the person and make fun of them like what we do? No Gohan, it isn't. Scientists don't know why either. They think it has to do with hormones or something like that. Hormones, chemicals released by cells that affect cells and other body parts, the Saiyan professionally stated. God help Gohan. Yeah sure, chemical magickers. Anyway, you'll have a better grasp on what they truly mean with more experience. The more you practice, the more you'll understand how to make them feel better, understand their emotions, and solve even more complex meanings. It may seem like an arduous task to figure this out, but in the end it's really cool to know what they actually mean, and it's worth it cause the babes will be all over you. So they're like calculus. Andres rolled his eyes. Yes, Gohan. They're like calculus. What a nerd. Hi Andres. Joe greeted from the bench. She was sitting with her 3 other friends, all of them third years. Gohan half-heartedly observed that they looked pretty cute. Still, he hadn't recovered from his breakup with Ginny, and he was in no mood for a girl. Wait, is this Gohan's son, the guy who made Ginny Weasley cry? Gohan's features darkened at this, guilt welling up once again. Shit, she's going to pissed off at me for this. Well, I guess bros before hoes will apply here. Yeah, but Andres began. Great. I've always hated the Weasleys. It must be pretty embarrassing having to wear hand-me-downs and second-hand clothes. Pretty funny, don't you think? Oh no, Gohan's not going to like that comment. Andres was right. Gohan didn't like that comment one bit. His face grew red, the comment leaving a vile taste in Gohan's mouth. There was no way in hell he would communicate with such a girl. Excuse me, but I must be going. I was supposed to be doing something else, far more important than this, but it happened to slip my mind. So bye. His tone was calm, controlled, but biting. Without another word, he left. There were no protests. The way he uttered the words had left the girl struck cold. Damn, he's good. There's only 3 minutes left so I guess it would be okay if I left too. I mean Gohan isn't here anymore, which defeats the purposes of this get-together. I don't want to be the only guy in a group of girls, you know. Joe gave Andres a weak smile, a bit shaken up. Sure, Andres. Some other time. With the farewells out of the way, the Spanish boy chazzed after his friend. There were problems needing to be resolved. Wait up, Gohan. Andres called after his friend striding down the hall, a caustic bite in every step he took. At Andres' calling, he robustly paused and mechanically turned around to face his friend. You want to talk about the comment your girlfriend made, Gohan said in such a way as to unnerve Andres. Damn, he's really good. Yeah, and I'd like to say. I won't try to be friendly with her, even if you want me to. Andres chuckled to Gohan's confusion. What's so funny? Andres looked amused. Dude, Gohan. Let's set things straight. What she said was really shallow, and I understand why you walked out on us. I won't force you to do anything against your own will. Here's our golden rule, Gohan. Bros before hoes, okay? Bros before hoes. Gohan smirked at the saying. Sure, bros before hoes. He couldn't help but chuckle after saying it. So do you have to date that girl? You know me, Gohan. It's not like I'm in love with her or anything. She can be so damn irritating at times and really needs some maturing, maybe some more difficulties in her life, in order to sort her out. And you're mature. Gohan derisively drawled. At least I'm more laid back and going with the flow, you know. Yeah I know, going with the flow. Gohan mocked, making waves with his arms. Andres ignored him. And of course, it's important that I date her. It's helping you and me get up the social ladder. And we really need it too if we want to look good to the non-Slytherins. The first years already look up to me like some sort of demigod because I'm dating Cho. Sure, I guess if it isn't a serious relationship. Andres laughed aloud. Serious? Don't mess with me man. That's not funny. Gohan couldn't help but laugh too. For the last time Trunks, no. Bulma yelled. She had been working for past few months on a very important experiment that could possibly help her discover the cures for several deadly diseases, but here was her son, bothering her with insistent requests to repair the broken time machine for him. All because he wanted to give romantic advice to Gohan. She couldn't restrain herself from laughing the first time Trunks told her why he wanted the time machine fixed. Trunks took great offense. She had always been proud of her son's looks, but unfortunately, that's all he needed to attract girls. They ignored his overly sappy sweet talk her dear Trunks barfed up, seeing through it all, in order to have his body and his face for themselves for a night or two. Trunks had once recited his sweet talk to her and asked her how good it was. She said it was okay, because she didn't have the will to hurt her son, but truthfully, it made her gag. She didn't want to tell him how corny it sounded, so she gave him advice that he shouldn't have to resort to lines with a girl. He should try to be himself. But the millions of chick flicks he watched had gone to his head and he would not listen to his mother, who had once been the most beautiful girl in West City. Bulma knew a thing or two about being a beautiful girl who played hard to get. Trunks would one day run into one and boy would he be helpless when that day came. Come on mom, make another time machine for me, Trunks whined to his mother. Bulma shot him a menacing glare, giving Trunks butterflies. Big bad sexy beast butterflies. I am left with no other choice. I must selflessly sacrifice myself to help my friend. It must be done. I'll stop throwing my super secret fangirl parties, he coyly added with some regret. He really didn't want to end his parties, but his mom hated his super secret fangirl parties. Well, they weren't super secret anymore because she had found out about them when one of the parties ended up being raunchier than usual, leaving all the guests dead asleep and completely naked on the floor. No, they weren't super secret anymore. They were just secret. Now that was a good deal for Bulma. She hated his quote super secret fangirl parties or what she called his blaringly obvious party for slutty fangirls. The rooms were disgusting after his parties. She really didn't want to go into the details. She swung her attention from the experiment to her son again. Okay, Trunks. I'll do it. But you have to stop those fangirl parties. Super secret fangirl parties, Trunks added. Bulma glowered at him and gritted her teeth. Those super secret fangirl parties, and if you don't, I'll stop repairing the time machine, and a thoughtful look crossed Bulma's face. You'll have to eat my cooking for a month. Trunks' face filled with fear. Bulma's cooking? Oh, the horror. He'd rather face an army of cells. The answer was clear to Trunks. Okay, Mom. I got you. So, you think it'll be up in a week or two? Oh no, Trunks. I say December. Trunks' eyes widened, utterly distraught. What? December? I can't wait that long. Gohan needs me. Honestly, I wonder why I made that ball in the first place. No good would come out of it in bad hands. I'm sure Gohan will be fine. No, he won't. He needs the master of magnetic charm with him to make the right moves. He needs me. Bulma scoffed. Master of magnetic charm, my sweet ass. October swept September away. The chill characteristic to this month was aroused that frigid night. It was too silent for Harry Potter. As he wandered through the forbidden forest, he hoped the silence would be broken, a desire he immediately retracted after considering the possible consequences. Wishing for the end of silence was not very wise. Simply having a worrying presage, after all, was better than it actually being realized. If it hadn't been for Snape, he wouldn't have been here. Snape had been his typical bigoted self during potions. A few mistakes on the potion Harry was brewing and an insult sent Snape's way after Snape demeaned him, and Harry was assigned detention with Hagrid. Hermione actually told Snape off and consequently, she had to serve detention too. Gohan's son had also gotten detention from, guess who? Yup, Snivella Snape himself. Who would have guessed? As great of a guy as Hagrid was, he never seemed to understand the dangers of the forest. Or at least the dangers Harry felt were there. Hagrid said that there was nothing that was harmful in the forest, at least if not provoked. Yet, Harry couldn't help but think otherwise, and every second he spent in the forest made him feel more inclined to dismiss Hagrid's claim as foolhardy at best. Admittedly, it wouldn't have been so bad for Harry if he were with Hermione and Gohan. Too bad they had to search for 3 different things, and Snape had given Hagrid specific commands to separate the 3 during detention. So here he was stumbling through the eerie forest like a blind man without a stick. Good job, Potter. It was so smart leaving your wand on your trunk. Whatever dangers there were, he felt that whenever it presented itself, he'd be a goner, a very tasty goner. What was I looking for again? Oh, that's right, Alahatsi leaves, said to cause hysteria in the person who eats them. Why would Snape want that? Oh Potter, what a stupid question to ask. A better question is why Snape wouldn't want something like that. The answer, I dunno. Suddenly, his foot hit a rock, making him stumble forward onto the dirt. I guess my luck ran out, it was only a matter of time before I fell down with all this bloody darkness surrounding me. His hands gripped onto silky leaves. What's this? An invisible grin lined his face, the darkness obscuring it. Alahatsi leaves. Alright. Now I can get back to Hagrid's hut. The problem is, how do I get back? Sweet Merlin, this sucks. He stood up and headed straight back the way he thought he came from. Of course, he didn't know exactly where he was going, but it was nicer to think he actually knew where he was going, rather than acknowledge he was lost. Oh look, I think I've seen that tree before. Yup, it looks exactly like all the other trees. An indistinguishable shadow in this god-forsaken darkness. I must be going the right way. The pretension of optimism was enough to make even the most deluded optimist cringe. That was the only way to keep Harry's sanity, however. Perhaps an exaggeration, but the point has been made. Out of nowhere, a yellow flicker of flight and an explosion came from Harry's right and then rushing footsteps. Harry's initial reaction was to run away as quickly as possible from the direction of the yellow light. Instead, he stood firmly planted into the dirt. Harry wasn't exactly sure what kept him there. Was it fear? No, it couldn't be fear. It was more of a gut feeling. A feeling that sent a message not of danger. If I have to fight for my life now, I will never listen to my gut again. Who's there? Harry, it's me. Hermione. Why were you running? Hermione closed the distance between them to an acceptable space. Up close, she looked anxious. I saw Gohan make a ball of energy come out of his hands and shoot it out at a troll. It made the troll run away, she whispered, clearly shaken. What? It must have been his wand. You can't make energy balls come out of your hands unless it's wandless magic. But even I know that you have to be incredibly advanced to do that. Exactly. As good as Gohan is at magic, he simply cannot be that good. It couldn't have been magic. It had to be something else. Barry shook his head. Hermione, there's no way he could shot balls of energy out of his hands. Just no way. You must have not seen his wand. I mean, it is really dark out here. Hermione nodded, still somewhat skeptical of the situation. So did you find the plant you were looking for? She asked, digressing from the previous subject. Yup, it happened to fall into my hands, or more like I fell into its hands. You? Hermione raised an eyebrow. I wouldn't ask, but I did find mine. Well then, let's get going. This place gives me the creeps. Hermione couldn't help but giggle. What? I've never heard you admit that you're afraid of something. Barry huffed. I'm not afraid, simply slightly worried about the possible threats. Hermione rolled her eyes. Oh, sure Harry. Barry was struggling to keep up with Hermione as she rushed through the nearly empty halls. Whenever she had a theory, nothing could stop her from confirming it. Unfortunately for Harry, he was once again left out in the dust since he didn't think like she did, Hermione being able to connect dots he didn't know could be connected or even existed in the first place. He took comfort in this being not a result of him being stupid, but rather her being brilliant. They had been out walking through the hallways during lunch after their usual gloomy experience with Snape. Ron had to go serve a lunch detention with Lockhart right after class. Ron had accidentally blown up a cauldron of the Wiggenweld potion they had been making. That left Harry and Hermione alone to discuss their friend Gohan, something they couldn't do when Ron was around unless they wanted to anger him. As always, they attempted to reaffirm their belief that Gohan could be trusted, always attempting to reason with their innate paranoia with Slytherins. Soon, they were discussing Hermione's mysterious encounter with Gohan the previous night during their detention. Vidal Satan happened to be brought up, then subsequently, the conversation shifted to Hercule. Harry paid a compliment to Hercule for beating Cell in the Cell games, and suddenly Hermione snapped and rushed away. Now here they were. Come on Hermione, slow down. Hermione seemed oblivious of Harry. A few seconds later, much to Harry's relief, Hermione came to a halt once she arrived at the library. She walked in, calmly now. Moments later, Harry entered the library and then searched for his bushy-haired friend. He paced down a few bookcases, looking down each one for her. At the 8th bookcase, he found Hermione in the History of Muggles section. She held a new brown leather book in her left hand while she rapidly flipped through the pages with her right. Harry approached his friend almost timidly. Hermione never liked being distracted from her studies, after all. Hermione, he quietly said and waited until she acknowledged him. Once she raised her head to eye Harry, he continued. Why are we here? Hermione tried to suppress a scowl at the dimness of her friend. Really, Harry, she replied testily. You couldn't figure that out along the way? Harry chuckled nervously. At first I thought you forgot all about me. She continued frowning. Okay, I couldn't figure it out, but that's just because you're so darn smart. Most people can't think like you do, Hermione. Hermione looked at him apologetically. It's not your fault, Harry. I just find it awfully irksome whenever I have to explain things that I find obvious. I tend to forget that not everyone thinks like me. It's fine, Mine. Hermione fixed a stern glare on him. Harry knew he wasn't supposed to call her that for reasons she hadn't told him. Sorry about that, Hermione. Can you explain what your idea is? The glare passed, a serious expression replaced it. Let's sit down at a table first. They did just that. When you talked about the Cell games, I remembered other fighters who could also make energy balls come out of their hands, and these energy balls looked exactly like the one Gohan made. Harry wrinkled his forehead. I see where you're heading, but Hercule said it was a trick. You'd have to acknowledge it wasn't one because you saw that Gohan's light thing had an effect on the troll. Not only that, but how could Gohan do what those fighters did in the first place? Yes, I would have to acknowledge that it isn't a trick. But that can't be too hard to acknowledge, right? After all, Muggles don't know that magic exists. So it doesn't seem that far-fetched that both Muggles and wizards are unaware of another group of people that can shoot energy balls out of their hands. You have a point, but that doesn't mean Gohan can do it. No, it doesn't. But this picture may show you why I think it's possible. She pushed the book towards Harry and then pointed at a picture of a muscular boy standing bravely against the monster cell. Harry's eyes widened, a flicker of uneasiness shining in his green eyes. That looks like Gohan. Which is why I suspect Gohan and the boy are the same person. Harry shook his head. No, it can't be. They look alike, but that kid has blonde hair and blue eyes. That's the only problem I can think of. A solution would be that he dyed his hair black or blonde, whichever is his natural color. What about the eyes? Harry was grasping at straws. Perhaps he used or now uses contacts. But why would he try to hide who he is? Hermione bit her lip, ready to burst out of sympathy for Gohan. Don't you see, Harry? We know what Gohan's like. Behind his occasional facade of cockiness, he is very humble and does not like to be in the spotlight. He wouldn't want to be recognized as the boy who fearlessly stood up against Cell by everyone in Hogwarts. He's just like you, Harry. Suddenly, Harry felt a whole well of respect for Gohan open up. He was just like him. I guess it makes sense, Hermione. Still, it might not have been Gohan. The boy could have been some other kid. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of people that look like me, except with different hair and eye color. We can't say for sure if he's that kid. Hermione sighed, defeated, with no possible rebuttal. You're right, Harry, but if we find out that it's true, we can't tell anyone. Agreed. Hey, how's my friend Gohan? Andres asked, his voice cheerful as he anticipated the beginning of the Halloween feast. Cut it out, Andres. You sound like Fat Albert, Gohan said, while instinctively swatting at a bat, one of the many flying around. No, I do not. He huffed indignantly. Such a comparison was blasphemy. Mr. Suave Pear is like Fat Albert. Malarkey. A giggle came from the side of Gohan, making Andres raise an eyebrow at his friend. Oh, she's one of my friends. Gohan straightened his posture, allowing Andres to better see his friend. Andres saw a small girl with pale blonde hair and protuberant gray eyes. Andres, this is Luna Lovegood. Luna, this is my good friend, Andres Pears. Ah, pleasure to meet you, Ms. Lovegood, Andres romantically said. He grabbed her small hand and courteously kissed it, making Luna giggle. Truly a pleasure, he continued, while grabbing a seat next to Gohan. Gohan gave him a glare. Why do you always have to do that whenever you meet a girl? Luna playfully smacked Gohan's shoulder. He's being a gentleman, and I found it very gentlemanlike too. A righteous smirk crossed Andre's face. Exactly, Gohan. Some of us here actually know how to be polite. Whatever. Andres ignored the coldness as always. So Gohan, why didn't you tell me about this lovely lady before? We've been busy torturing Kennedy and his minions, plus you've been absolutely enamored by the queen of gossip, Cho Chang. Andres forced a few chuckles out of his all of a sudden dry mouth. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Not becoming more enamored with Cho Chang wasn't easy. Their golden rule of bros before hoes was, according to Gohan, being broken by Andres, despite his previous promises not to. It led to some heated altercations between them. Andres oftentimes called Gohan childishly bitter over a single comment about his ex-girlfriend. He had even once remarked that Gohan stoutly defended Ginny, despite the partial truth of Cho's comments, something that Andres was extremely regretful of saying. So, why aren't you sitting with the Ravenclaws, Luna? Andres asked, looking to change topics. It's because none of them like me and I want to be in the company of my friend Gohan, she said dreamily, as if not bothered at all. The candidness of the comment startled Andres. He had never heard such a blunt comment. Gohan couldn't help but be greatly amused by Andres' confusion. But why? Andres finally asked. She gave him a puzzled look. Well, because friends are nice to be around. Andres shook his head, slightly annoyed. Is something wrong with you? Did a blubbering Humdinger catch your eye? Andres looked incredulously at her. A tittering Shittinger. Gohan lost it, he was absolutely hysterical. Luna remained calm, looking to correct Andres. No, a blubbering Humdinger. It seems like you don't know what they are, so you probably didn't see one. Andre's eyes remained widened, studying her cautiously, alarmed by her unusualness. Yeah, I didn't see one. Gohan managed to control himself. So what's wrong with you? I just wanted to clarify my question. She tilted her head to one side, staring at him perplexed. Then why did you shake your head so many times, like you were trying to see something? Andres groaned inwardly. It's an inside joke between me and Gohan, he lied, trying to move the conversation into another direction. An inside joke? You mean the joke is inside you, like you telepathically connect to each other and say the joke? She gazed at him, a hint of wonder in her tone, amazed at the possibility. Gohan was now busy laughing into his hands, cupped over his mouth. Andres gave him an indignant glance. No, an inside joke is. But that's very strange. Luna cut him off. Both of the persons have to be very advanced in magic to do that. I've only heard of lovers telepathically connecting when they aren't adept in those arts. Are you two lovers by any chance? Gohan and Andres gave her a horrified look, completely disgusted by the idea. No. They yelled out, hoping no one had heard Luna. If someone had, rumors would be swirling in the next hour about their sexual orientation. Oh, okay. Despite the vigor with which they answered negatively to her question, she looked as far away as she usually was. Then how do you communicate the joke telepathically? Gohan joined in. An inside joke is just a joke between two people or in some social group that is humorous because of an established context to it, known by the people or insiders. Luna looked at him in comprehension. Now I understand. So what was your original question before we veered off topic? She directed at Andres. Andres appeared enervated. It's fine, Luna. I'll ask Gohan. Okay then. Luna gave Andres a dreamy smile, once again confusing Andres. The Spanish boy gave Gohan a bewildered look. This is going to be an interesting night. A frightened mass of students gathered at the scene. Filch's cat, Mrs. Norris, was hanging from a torch bracket, petrified, Harry, Ron, and Hermione standing right below. Gohan looked at the scene in shock, not sure what to think, along with a confused Andres and Luna. What is this? Gohan asked himself. Did they do that? No, they couldn't have. Then, he noticed large blood-red words streaked across the stone walls. The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air beware. They definitely did not do that. Enemies of the air beware. You'll be next, mudbloods. Draco Malfoy yelled gleefully. Gohan clenched his fist, knowing the vile insult Malfoy had uttered. The Saiyan, however, was more concerned with what the Chamber of Secrets was, rather than Malfoy's bigotry. Malfoy pushed his way through the crowd, his grey eyes gleaming with sick, vengeful glee, as he approached the limp cat. Was it a bluff? No, Gohan knew it wasn't. His instincts never lied. Without a doubt, more horrors would be committed. The question now was, what could he do? What's going on here? What's going on? A creaky voice inquired. Filch was pushing his way through the mass of students. At the sight of Mrs. Norris, he clutched his face, distraught. My cat. My cat. What's happened to Mrs. Norris? He screeched, eyes wrangling about, insanely eyeing every student inimically. His bursting eyes fell on Harry. It was you. He accused, raising a shaking finger at Harry. You've murdered my cat. You've killed her. I'll kill you. I'll. Argus. Dumbledore's firm voice called from behind the crowd. The students made way for Dumbledore and the other teachers trailing behind him. Swiftly, he swept past the trio and took the limp cat off the torch bracket. Come with me, Argus. You too, Mr. Potter, Mr. Weasley, and Ms. Granger, he calmly said. Professor Lockhart keenly stepped in, his typical toothy smile plastered on his face. You can use my office, headmaster. It's nearest. Just up the stairs. Thank you, Gilderoy, Dumbledore said. The crowd parted to let them pass. With a whirl of his robes, the old yet powerful man led the trio and Filch towards Lockhart's office. Immediately after their departure, hushed whispers buzzed through the room like the strident hissings of beetles. Gohan instead maintained his composure. He was sure Dumbledore would be reasonable. The prefect escorted the Slytherins toward the common room. Discussion had erupted immediately after. It was not one of concern in contrast to the other houses, but dark joyousness for many Slytherins, some, however, not choosing to join in, but rather remain silent and keep their thoughts to themselves. Venomous laughs at the eventual misfortunes for Muggle-borns made Gohan sick. A flicker of disgust crawled up his throat, sickly brackish in taste. Despite the distasteful discussion, Gohan himself remained calm, not speaking up, just like some others in his house. Andres, in contrast, had more than once butted in, his temper flaring. He excoriated many Slytherins for their sickening behavior. He even asked the prefect to put a stop to the distasteful comments being made, but the prefect simply sneered at him, obviously sharing similar repugnant sentiments. Andres was about to curse him with his wand until Gohan restrained Andres. Reluctantly, the fiery boy lowered his wand, pocketing it back into his robes. Andres sent Gohan an envenomed glare, but the Saiyan told him to remain calm. Tomorrow he would explain why. Andres curtly nodded, still exasperated by the lack of sedition from his friend. He had expected more from Gohan. As they descended down to the dungeon, Kennedy pompously approached Gohan with his usual preachy gait. Gohan acknowledged him with a bored look. What do you want, Kennedy? Gohan asked dryly. Kennedy smirked at him. He looks even more like my ass when he smiles like that. Wait. Forgive me, ass, I didn't mean to insult you. Mr. Kennedy, to you. Gohan scowled. Cut to the damn chase, asshole. We're almost at the common room and once we're there, I'm heading straight for my dormitory. A few curious heads flicked their attention towards the altercation. Terseness. A peasant's way of life. Ah, very well. I wanted to ask you what you were doing with Loony Lovegood at our table. Shut up, dipshit. Don't call Luna loony. Andres hotly directed toward Kennedy. This conversation is between me and Gohan, Spanish boy. Andres glared at the prince, then switched his gaze toward the incensed Gohan. Gohan, you can't let him talk about Luna like that. If Gohan had heard his words, Andres couldn't tell. All he knew was that Gohan was really pissed off. And boy, you didn't want to piss off Gohan, that's for sure. Don't you ever call Luna that name again. Kennedy couldn't help but feel terrified, Gohan's tone chilling and dark. How does Gohan do that? Kennedy timidly spoke up, a meek stutter in his words. I can do what I No, you fucking can't, President Pisstain. Let me make this clear enough so that pea-sized brain of yours can understand me. Don't you ever call Luna that name again. Hell, I don't even want you within 50 meters of her. Don't mess with Luna or you're going to have to answer to me. And believe me, you really don't want that. Many first years looked at him worried, heeding his words. Most of the older Slytherins, however, held a pompous sneer. He noticed out of the corner of his eye Vidal, Sharpener, and Arasa looking on, with discombobulated expressions. All of you hear me? None of you mess with Luna. The cackle came from behind the Saiyan. The Slytherins walking through the labyrinth of corridors all abruptly stopped. Draco Malfoy strode through the crowd, with his generic sneer on his pale face. Son, what audacity to believe anyone will listen to you just because of your big bad scary voice. Nervous chuckles were timorously choked out by the first years, but the upper years cackled menacingly. Maybe these itty-bitty first years but not us, the older Slytherins. Why should we fear a mudblood like you? Another cacophony of cackles. Gohan regarded him apathetically, toying with ideas that would display his strength enough to scare the Slytherin silent and ensure they didn't call Luna that name ever again, yet controlled enough to prevent trouble. Only a paucity of ideas trickled through his head surprisingly. After mulling over the possibilities for a split second, his decision was made. Serpensortia, he hissed. Subsequently, he wordlessly summoned 3 dancing blue orbs of flaring incandescent flame, the trio purposefully crawling closer to Malfoy's pale face, now moist with sweat. As the orbs drew near, his sweat began to evaporate. Malfoy's face transmogrified. The large serpent appeared, seemingly out of nowhere, its scaly skin clammy, and its eyes like daggers gouging out one's heart. It was not a serpent that just anyone could make. No, it was a large serpent, sliding on the floor toward Gohan. Gohan hissed at the serpent. Show him what it means to know fear. The serpent appeared to bow its head. It then slithered toward the shocked Malfoy. All the Slytherin's eyes were wide with disbelief, including Andre's as he studied his friend with fear. Wait. Malfoy cried out. He brought up an accusing finger at Gohan. You're a Parselmouth. The orbs of fire disseminated. Gohan lifted an eyebrow, clearly confused at the comment. As much as he studied, he didn't know everything about the wizarding world yet. What's a Parselmouth? He expected another uproar of laughs, but none came. The only sound was the slithering of the serpent returning to its conjurer, seemingly comprehensive of the current situation. The person who can speak to snakes, Gohan, Andre said. Another Slytherin, who appeared to be about a 5th year, joined in, his voice flat with disbelief. Speaking Parselting is a rare ability throughout the wizarding world. Salazar Slytherin was a Parselmouth, hence the serpent on our crest. It is said that the heir of Slytherin is also a Parselmouth. Gohan's eyes flickered with understanding. He fixed his gaze on the band of Slytherins. I know what you guys are thinking, so let me say this. I'm not the heir of Slytherin. The prefect spoke up. We can't be sure. Whichever is the truth, we all now know it is best to stay out of your way for the time being, unless you bid us to help you accomplish your mission, or if the truth comes out that you're not the heir. Admittedly, it's strange that a mudblood would be the heir of Slytherin, but it's almost just as strange that a mudblood is a Parselmouth. Gohan grimaced at the prefect's words. The rumors would be raging the next day, and most of the dunderheads would believe them. He would be ostracized. Gohan didn't care much, but presumptuous fright towards him was useless unless he happened to feel sadistic for a day. Whatever, screw all of them. Believe what you choose to believe. But I will reaffirm again, I am not the heir of Slytherin. The prefect studied Gohan for a moment. Once his gaze dropped, he motioned the crowd of Slytherins to continue toward the common room. Andres walked closer to Gohan. You were telling the truth, right? You aren't the heir of Slytherin? Asked, slightly anxious. Gohan took a sharp breath. Don't you believe me? Andres grinned a little. Yeah, I was just making sure you weren't pulling a huge one on all those Slytherins. I mean, why would you want word to come out to the teachers that you're the heir of Slytherin? That would ruin all those incredible pranks you could craft. Gohan chuckled. All you think about are pranks. If I were the heir of Slytherin, I think I would be a little too grouchy to worry about pranks. Well, if I were the heir of Slytherin, I would tell my baddest snakes to make Kennedy's American dick piss his posh pants. The chuckle became a laugh. The following days consisted of rumors spreading throughout the entire school, from table to table, house to house, everyone crossing borders looking to receive the alarming news. What more proof was needed to confirm that Gohan was the one who conducted the attack on Mrs. Norris? After all, he spoke Parselting secretly to the Slytherins and made a huge serpent pop out of nowhere, and according to the rumors, it was about as long as half of a house table. How could it all be a coincidence? But what about the Golden Trio? Nah, it couldn't have been them, it was just a case of the saying wrong place wrong time. As Gohan had predicted, many students chose to believe the rumors. Now many believers avoided him like the plague. Andres and Luna were the only ones in the entire school who treated him normally. Harry and Hermione both were increasingly wary of him. Andres, I was going to tell you that we have to be on semi-affable terms with the Slytherins, Gohan said, and then tossed an entire apple into his mouth. Andres turned around from his plate of bacon and pancakes. That's why you restrained me? You were thinking long-term, not short-term. Yeah. There's no need to worry, at least not for now. They're with us, but I'll keep my trap shut as much as I can. We don't need our entire house against us, do we? Andres didn't say anything else, concentrated solely on ravenously eating his food. Gohan sighed, then joined him. Hermione, I know Gohan can't speak Parselting, I've heard the rumors. But it doesn't mean he's the heir of Slytherin, Harry said. He still didn't believe Gohan was the heir of Slytherin, despite the new knowledge of Parseltings Hermione provided him. Throughout the lecture, he felt a need to tell Hermione that he too was a Parselmouth, but he was held back by fear, a fear of being ostracized. They had been avoiding discussing the rumors, but finally they succumbed to the gnawing necessity. Ron grunted angrily while chewing bacon. You're talking about that git again? He asked incomprehensibly, his food-filled mouth destroying any possible civility. Hermione glared at him contemptuously. First of all, don't speak with your mouth full, Ronald. Ron glared back at her. Hey, don't call me that. She ignored him. And second, when will you get it through your unforgiving thick-hided soul that Gohan is sincerely sorry? Harry helplessly stared at his friends, who once again were bickering over Gohan. Why do you always defend son? Does Whittle Hermione fancy the Slytherin kid? Hermione's eyes burned with an increasing heat. Oh. You're unbearable. She turned toward Harry. We'll discuss this later, when he isn't here. As for now, I'm going to have to leave. I have some reading to do. Ron snorted when she left. See, she didn't even bother to deny it. Harry looked at his friend, disappointed. What? Ron, why don't you just forgive Gohan and get over it? He's really a great person when you get to know him. Ron sent him a feral growl. You two. Bloody hell, what's gotten into you two? You guys are blind to all the damn evidence that shows son is a kid. First, he's put in the evilest house in the entire world, then he breaks my sister's heart while trying to extract revenge on the savior of the world's daughter. And to top it all off, he's the heir of Slytherin. What more do you need? Harry sighed, frustrated, and then massaged his temples. He made a mistake, Ron. We all make mistakes and I know that he's sincerely sorry. And do you honestly believe those heir of Slytherin rumors? Ron's face scrunched up in further disgust. Of course, he spat out. What more evidence do you need? Harry sank his hands into the table, stood up, and then hunched over to glare at Ron. It was a coincidence, okay. Just a coincidence. But he's a Parselmouth. Harry sat back down. So what, I can talk to snakes too? Ron's eyes expanded. Harry's words smacked him like a club. No, you can't talk to snakes, you're the boy who lived, the Prince of Light. All Parselmouths are dark wizards. Harry snorted, fed up with Ron's small-mindedness. Hermione was right all along. You are a small-minded, hypocritical bigot. You call out the purebloods that treat Muggleborns as inferiors, but you are just as bigoted as they are. Harry showed Ron his back. I'm leaving, Ron. It's best we don't speak to each other until you realize what's wrong with you. Ron snarled as Harry began to leave. Fine. But it's not me who has a problem, it's you two. He yelled at the retreating figure, heads turning toward him at the sound of his harsh voice. Ron felt angry and betrayed, but eventually Harry's words would begin to sink in. His anger would be replaced with uncertainty and a need to figure out whether he was the one with the problem. Gohan and Andres were walking through the hallways toward their next class, Charms. You're like a prodigy, right? Andres asked. Yeah, why do you ask if you already know that? Andres grinned at him. Well, I want you to teach me as much you can. I mean, I really am aspiring to become the greatest curse breaker in the world and so far Hogwarts has been easy peasy. I really want to advance more quickly and you're the perfect teacher. Gohan studied his friend, hesitant. But he quickly realized it would be selfish not to teach his best friend as much as he possibly could. Plus, they would be strongest duo in school, revered by all who they came across. That could be fun. Gohan returned the grin. Sure, Andres. I can see where you're coming from. Not only that, but imagine both us being the strongest students in school. The power we'd command. Andres' eyes sparkled with giddiness, glowing like stars. Oh, imagine how many times we could make Kennedy wet his pants. I say at least 50 times a year, a low estimate however. High estimate. 100. An evil look crossed Andres' face. Marvelous. Gohan cautiously glanced at his friend, slightly perturbed by the Andres' dark expression. Yeah, marvelous. Andres broke out of his trance. So how do you learn all those spells? I know you bought a lot of books, but they surely weren't advanced enough to make you so incredibly powerful. What do you think I do? Andres wore a sly appearance. I say you sneak into the library's restricted section a lot and power read your way through the books you get, then practice early in the morning or late at night what you've learned. I've seen how fast you read, and I know sneaky you can be. Makes sense to me, Gohan said, a wily smile on his face. That's what I always thought. Andre said triumphantly. How about you include me in your escapades? Once again, Gohan was hesitant. He always used his incredible Saiyan speed to sneak into the restricted section. He couldn't do that around Andres. Of course, the disillusionment charm would suffice. That's fine, after all, we are partners in crime, Gohan craftily said, feigning a thief by conjuring a mask on his face. So we need super cool secret names. Andres excitedly exclaimed. Gohan groaned, disgusted. No, we don't. I'll be the Dark Avenger. We don't need secret names, Gohan reaffirmed. Andres continued, seemingly oblivious of Gohan. And you can be Hot Cheeks. Hot Cheeks? Gohan asked, dumbfounded. Why do I have to be Hot Cheeks? Andres smirked at Gohan. Haven't you heard all the girls walking by us say that you've got a sweet ass? He laughed aloud. Gohan grumbled, disgruntled. My secret name is not going to be Hot Cheeks. You're stuck with it, Hot Cheeks. Asshole. Charms with the Ravenclaws had just ended. Gohan and Andres had spent most of the time making funny faces at the professor when he wasn't looking, to the great amusement of the entire class. As a result, Luna had gone through a fervid state of uncontrollable giggles, making Professor Flitwick think that she had come down with a case of giggling pneumonia, sending the class into another uproar. Now Gohan and Andres were pacing towards herbology. So how's my good old chap, Gohan? A familiar voice asked. Gohan slightly turned his head and saw Fred and George walking toward him. Pretty good, considering the stupid rumors. Out of the corner of his eye, Gohan saw Andres slyly smile. He was up to something again, of course. The juiciest news of the week. A twin said. We of course don't believe it. Why would our little old Gohan be the heir of Slytherin? Gohan gave the twins a glare. Hey. I could be the heir of Slytherin if I wanted to. The twins looked at each other, both amused. Do you think he's got what it takes to be the heir of Slytherin, George? Good question, Fred. So what's your answer, Fred? Nah, not a chance, George. Gohan raised an eyebrow at the twins. Wait, what? You guys mixed each other's names. He knew he should have memorized their Kai signatures the first time he met them. At the Saiyan's confusion, the twins both grinned. Oh, we did. Why, how careless of us, wouldn't you say so, Fred? Sure, George, very careless indeed. Hey George, do you remember what class we have next? No, Fred, I can't recall. Gohan scowled. You're doing it again. I'll get their identities sorted out eventually. Sorry, they voiced in unison, clearly not at all regretful. So who's your friend? A twin asked. Andres Pyres, a Slytherin like me, but not like the rest of the arrogant slimeballs in our house. Andres gave them a pompous smirk. The son of the greatest curse breakers in the world, the one, the only, the legendary Pyres family. Gohan whispered into the twins' ears. Scratch the arrogant part. The twin snickered. I've heard that you two are the biggest pranksters in the school, Andres coyly said. The comment clearly caught the twins' interest as they stared expectantly at the Spanish boy. Gohan mentally groaned, knowing where the topic was headed. Yes, we are. And I would like to know if you have heard of my and Gohan's cunning exploits in the world of pranks. The twins broadly grinned, now aware where the conversation was going. Oh, we have. Quite capable, you two chaps. Andres pompously puffed out his chest. More than capable. In fact, I would say we are the greatest pranksters in school. No, we're not, Gohan said. Don't listen to him. He's too modest. Gohan glowered at Andres. We would have to agree with Gohan, wouldn't you say so, George? George puckered his lips, feigning a thinking position. Duh. Andres rubbed his chin, mocking George's mock. So it seems, we can't resolve this issue. 2 against 2 it is. Thus, we must find a way to reach a conclusion and figure out who truly is the best. A prank competition would surely resolve it. Wouldn't you say so, Gohan? Gohan shrugged. Sure, whatever you say, he gruffly said. The twins were beaming now, their eyes shining like sparkling stars. Brilliant idea, Andres. So, what are the rules? Asked George. Well, first of all I have to tell you that I plan on making this competition official on September 8th of next year because of some difficulties me and Gohan are encountering at the present moment. Gohan sighed at that. He didn't expect to be in any mood to go through a prank competition this year. The twins pouted mournfully. Too bad. Yeah, you got our hopes up and now we have to wait almost an entire year to start the competition. Patience is virtue, lads, patience is virtue, Andres sagaciously added. The twins grinned at them. We'll be looking forward to it, but we've got to go right now. Yeah, or McGonagall will start breathing fire. See you guys later and it's been nice meeting you, Andres. The pleasure is mine. With the goodbyes out of the way, the twins left. Gohan flicked a hard gaze at Andres. Why did you do that? Do what? You know what? Dude, you'll be thanking me next year for my brilliant idea. You'll have a great time. I wouldn't have come up with it otherwise. Gohan slightly smiled, his anger dissipating. Andres was a good friend. Oh, this is maddening, Hermione whispered, her voice haggard. Hermione, it's lunch. Don't you think it'd be better if we were outside instead of stuck in the library? Harry asked. Hermione gave Harry a biting look. It's fine then. She sent him a fake smile. Good. I know what you mean, Harry, but we have to find a book on the legend of the Chamber of Secrets. You mean what the writing on the wall said was open? Yes. But all the books that delve into the legend have been taken. Have you looked in the restricted section? Hermione gave him a look of trepidation, mulling over whether or not to break the rules again, like the previous year. She took a deep breath. No, I haven't. Her eyes glanced down at her shoes, her toes wriggling like sea serpents in water. Harry waited for the answer that he knew would come. Tonight. Tonight. Gohan, you know how we're going to the library tonight and stuff. Andres trailed off while flicking an apple in the air, narrowly missing a branch protruding from the large oak tree. Yeah, and? Gohan asked, taking several bites out of his various fruits. Didn't you tell me the night the writings on the wall appeared that we were going to figure out what happened? Gohan paled and then slapped his forehead. Of course. How could I forget? I know where you're going, so yeah, we'll have to look for a book in the restricted section about the Chamber of Secrets. The Spanish boy took a crackling bite out of his apple, proceeded to chew his bite of apple for a few seconds, and then gulped all the flesh and juice down rhythmically. Do you really think all this isn't a bluff? I might not be Muggle-born, but I'm also not like those snobby purebloods who all think Muggle-borns are filth that should be exterminated. Yes, my instincts were screaming a warning at me. Andres took a sharp breath. You're a Muggle-born too, so I'm kind of worried about you. Malfoy's been babbling that Muggle-borns are the enemies of the heir. Gohan gave him a mockingly touched look. Oh Andres, how sweet. It warms my heart like toast in a toaster that you truly care about me. Andres scrunched up his features, the sappiness turning his disgust signals on overdrive. Cut it out, Gohan. It's killing me. I can't take it when someone else imitates my attempts at melodramatic mockery. He rubbed his temples in pain. Gohan chuckled. Sorry, I didn't know you were allergic to love. You don't know the half of it. Gohan chuckled again. He couldn't imagine what kind of girl Andres would fall in love with. But seriously, if this Chamber of Secrets has been opened, whatever attacked Mrs. Norris is going to attack Muggle-borns. You know that I can protect myself, Andres. I'd fucking fry that thing before it could touch me. Wow, Gohan dropped the F-bomb. Gohan shrugged impassively. Guess you're rubbing off on me. Well, I'll take your word for it, as I always do, unless it's a blaringly obviously lie or just plain stupid. Gohan glared at him. But all the other Muggle-borns, they're in deep shit. We have to find out what this Chamber of Secrets is tonight. It's nice to not be giving out the orders for a change. Andres huffed. I am very capable of taking command when I want to. I just have better things to do than being the leader all the time. Gohan rolled his eyes. Oh sure. A thought then struck the Saiyan. What about Luna? Do you want to get her involved in our plans? A teasing smile lined Andre's face. Has Gohan taken up a new love interest? She's not a love interest. She's just a friend. Andre snickered. Sure, Gohan. Whatever you say. I take your word for it, unless it's a blaringly obvious lie or just plain stupid. The Spanish boy felt a familiar glare. But no, we shouldn't. Yeah, she's a friend, but we shouldn't put her in risky situations. Gohan looked somewhat ashamed. Of course. I don't want anything bad to happen to her. Would I even think of that? Because you wanted to be close to her beautiful self. Shut up, asshole. Little Satan was mindlessly poking her food while Larasa and Sharpener were bickering as they usually did for some foolish reason, their gibbering so unclear, they sounded like squeaking mice. She didn't feel hungry, she felt more like thinking than eating. As the turmoil following the Mrs. Norris incident steadily died down, her mind began to think more clearly. She never was one to take rumors seriously, she had always felt that they were nothing more than unsubstantiated gossip. Nevertheless, the seriousness of situation taken alongside with the evidence she herself had witnessed with her own eyes made her mind race, contemplating whether or not Gohan's son could have done such a thing. As much as she hated the guy, she wasn't entirely sure he would petrify Mrs. Norris and write the things that were on the wall. In fact, she hoped that he wasn't capable, perhaps foolishly on her part, of that. She didn't want anything more to provide support for her cynicism. An 11-year-old threatening the lives of an entire population of Muggle-borns, a status he himself held. What was more disturbing than that? Despite her hopes, cynicism gnawed at her mind relentlessly. Action had to be taken. Her father's heroism was just as prevalent in her character. Her brain stretched itself, looking inside itself for possible roads to action. Common sense told her that before acting, one needed knowledge. Acquiring knowledge would thus be the first step. Maybe the library has something about the Chamber of Secrets. I'll go check the library. Arasa and Sharpener. They're out of my plans, they'll just get in my way. I'm going to the library, Vidal said, making the pointless quarrel halt. Arasa turned her head toward Vidal. Why? Why do you question me now of all times? I want to look something up before our transfiguration test next period. Sharpener closed his eyes and sneered wryly, scoffing at her. All of a sudden you actually care so much about a test to go to the library and look something up? That doesn't sound like the Vidal I know. Her gaze made Sharpener uncomfortable. Maybe I had a change of heart, okay? She said with a caustic tone. Both Sharpener and Arasa grimly looked at each other, both understanding that they couldn't do anything. Sure, Vidal. Arasa cheered, her voice just adding to a pretense of support. Good. See you guys later. Dumbledore tapped his foot restlessly, waiting for Snape as he out of habit stroked Fawkes, his phoenix, while he stared at the office door. His eyes were wizened and befuddled as he thought of the mysterious student, Gohin's son. The rumors of Gohin being the heir were alarming to him. The strength the boy commanded was unseen in any other student. As a first year, the boy already was as strong as Tom Riddle was in his third year. Rumors are exactly what they are, just rumors. They are not facts, headmaster. Ah Minerva, if only I could be as skeptical as you are. However, I am not, and I will have to take the utmost caution with this boy, for he is capable of great things, but if darkness takes him, we will face an even greater monster than Voldemort himself. Dumbledore was deep in thought. Incredibly powerful, a Slytherin, and now possibly a Parselmouth, who coincidentally conjured a snake immediately after the Mrs. Norris incident. Was his conjuring of the snake just some sick joke? A strange boy. A boy even I cannot understand. And his friends, the son of the legendary Pyres family and the daughter of Xenophilius, both of them quite extraordinary themselves. Knocks on the door snapped Dumbledore out of his thoughts. Come in, Severus. Snape opened the door and walked in, looking indifferent but dutiful. What do you want, headmaster? Advice, Dumbledore said. Advice on what to do with a student of yours. Snape raised an eyebrow, mildly curious. A student of mine. Who is it? He asked, flatly. Dumbledore took a breath then released it slowly, clearly enervated. Gohin's son. The rumors circulating around Hogwarts concerning him have been disturbing. Snape shook his head. Headmaster, they are merely unsubstantiated rumors. Yes, Mr. Sun is powerful for his age, but I don't believe he's a Parselmouth. He's from Japan. Almost every Parselmouth is a descendant of Salazar Slytherin, and I find it hard to believe Gohin could be a descendant. Parselting itself is an extremely rare ability, anyway. Dumbledore's eyes were like those of a wraith. Do you not notice the respect the Slytherins are showing Mr. Sun? It is a type of respect that is given when a person witnesses another's laudable actions, not just hear rumors. Before the rumors, he was treated like an outsider. Can you explain that, Severus? Has Mr. Sun done anything to warrant such a dramatic change in the other Slytherins' treatment of him? The powerful old wizard saw Snape's stolid eyes waver, a flash of uncertainty. I cannot explain this change, Snape muttered. But that does not prove anything. But it makes the rumors more plausible, wouldn't you say? Mr. Sun being a Parselmouth, after all, is the only explanation for the Slytherins' respect that I know of. Just because it is the only explanation as of now, does not mean it is the correct one. Dumbledore slightly smiled. I know that, Severus. But we must prepare for the worst. I am not going to make the same mistake I made with Voldemort. Even if I wasn't the headmaster at that time, I could have stopped him. If anything, it would be a greater mistake not to be cautious with Mr. Sun, since he already is as powerful as Voldemort was in his third year. Snape looked at the old wizard, flabbergasted. That can't be. How can you even tell how powerful Sun truly is? I have my ways, Severus. No need to know how, but just trust me, Dumbledore said, an unusual edge to his tone. With the power Mr. Sun commands, and a dark swing, he could become the greatest threat the wizarding world and muggle world has ever seen. Dumbledore's startling words brought on a lurid silence. Snape's hands were clenched at his side nervously. He hated this feeling, he hated feeling weak even for a second. I understand, headmaster. What do you want me to do? Dumbledore turned his back and stared out the window at the glorious lake. Keep him in your sight. Remain vigilant and maintain prudence. This is very important, Severus. I'm counting on you. Do you accept? Snape knew Dumbledore was correct to be observant of Gohin's son. Severus. Yes, headmaster. I accept. Creeping through the shadows was Hercule's daughter, her sneaking around as skillful as a thief's. Other students had checked out all the books concerning the Chamber of Secrets, so she was left with having to find a book in the restricted section. Filch passed by, an oil lantern spreading light upon his path, while his haggard eyes crawled through every crack and crevice in sight. Vidal embraced the shadows, wearing them like a cloak, while she expertly continued to run noiselessly through the hall, managing to evade Filch once he had turned his lantern opposite of her location. The moon was now the only source of light. She skipped through the moonlight wading through the intricate windows and then pushed her lithe body into the cold stone walls. After one more quick yet assiduous glance, she took off running, each step merely a whisper, to the east hall. With a deft right turn, her boot slid on the floor. A single sound of a foreign step on the floor caught her attention. She suddenly became as aware as a snake, her eyes weaving around the dark hallway, as fluidly as a mountain stream. Once satisfied with her analysis, she slipped into the library, her heart beating thrillingly at her successful escapade. "You still haven't found it, Hermione," Harry whispered. She gave him a berating look. "What about you? You're standing there like a fool." Harry shrugged. "Someone has to keep this cloak on us in case someone happens to stumble inside here." Hermione gave him one more scowl, then turned to look for the book. They had already been there for about half an hour. Harry sighed for the third time in a minute and stolidly gazed at a tall bookcase, each row lined with books concerning countless potions. "Harry." Hermione's soft, anxious whisper startled him. "Someone's coming. I see a head of black hair close to the door." Harry fixed his eyes on the doorway and indeed saw someone. It couldn't have been a professor because the person was obviously too short to be an adult unless it happened to be Flitwick, but he had a tuft of grey hair. "Put that book back, Hermione. Let's go to that corner," he said, while pointing at the corner where the end of the bookcase met the wall. "Really smooth, Andres." She almost figured out we were following her. Andres grinned sheepishly at Gohan. "Sorry. I was thinking about that awesome kiss." Gohan scowled. "Now's not the time for fantasizing. We've got to get that book, but Vidal is going to make this a lot harder than it should have been." Andres nodded. Gohan's expertly placed disillusionment charm hid them from any prying eyes as long as they kept close to the walls and shadows, the two basically having become human chameleons. Gohan had to admit that Vidal had displayed a lot of skill. As much as he didn't want to acknowledge it, he saw a great deal of. When Gohan got a hold of Andres, Gohan sharply pushed him forward. Andres sent back an invisible scowl. They quietly walked toward the door. Gohan sensed two energy sources not belonging to Vidal and soon realized to whom they belonged. Harry and Hermione were hiding in a corner, somehow invisible. "Great, now things are even more complicated. Andres, I think Vidal isn't the only one in there." "What do you mean?" "It's just a gut feeling. It's almost never wrong. Someone else is looking for the book too." "Then what do we do?" "Wait." Harry pushed himself deeper into the cold layers of stone, as if he planned to be engraved in it in order to preserve himself. "What do we do now?" he thought. Probing his brain for a solution made him come up with one idea. "Wait." He heard Hermione's unnaturally quiet breathing. Her arm touching his was unusually tense, as tight as a harp string. He poked Hermione gently to grab her attention. Once he had her attention, he put a single finger on his lips, motioning for silence. She gave him a nod. They looked on at the daughter of the Earth Savior as she examined book after book. Several books later, her face was evidently flustered visible despite the darkness from her fruitless attempts. Suddenly, she seemed excited. Her hands ran through the pages of the book she just pulled out, hoping to find what she sought. Then, she stopped at a page, midway through the book, and lined her fingers over words. "The Chamber of Secrets," she whispered quietly, yet audibly enough for Harry and Hermione to hear. 20 pages dedicated to it. Those few words changed everything. Harry now had to rethink his plan. She had the book, and if there were any more books about the Chamber of Secrets, they surely couldn't be as informative as the book Vidal Satan held. There was only one option. His eyes turned to Hermione's, looking at her for confirmation. She understood and nodded. Harry dropped the cloak, thrusting it into his pocket immediately after. "Vidal, we need that book," Harry firmly said. Vidal jumped and then slowly turned her head toward them. When she realized they were students, she gave them an annoyed look and put the book on the shelf. "Why should I do that?" she asked heatedly. "I need this book too." Hermione spoke up. "We know why you want it. It's so you can help stop this heir, right?" Vidal snappily nodded. "That's great, but look, we're second years and Harry and I have been in dangerous situations before. We can handle this situation better than you can." Vidal's blue eyes grew stormy. "Do you know who you're talking to, girl? I'm Hercule's daughter. What makes you think you guys can handle this better than I can?" Harry shook his head. "You can't because you're not as experienced in magic. Maybe you're physically more adept, but that's not enough. These matters require magical ability, not physical ability." Vidal would not give in. "And I'm magically incompetent." "No, it's just that something tore through the wind." A blur grabbed the book and took off, all in one heartbeat, 2 heartbeats for the agitated Vidal. "That thing took the book." Hermione said, upset. What? Vidal nearly shrieked. I have to get that thing. She ran out of the library, her stride compassed of quick silent steps, expertly weaving her way around the furniture and out the door. Harry and Hermione stood planted on the ground. They stared at each other, perplexed. Who could have done that? Hermione whispered. I don't know, but we're not following it. It'd be hopeless. With a final confused look at each other, they flung the cloak back on themselves and headed back to the Gryffindor Tower, each of them exhausted. Investigations tampered bludger. So here we are with nothing. Hermione complained as she trudged through the halls toward breakfast alongside Harry. How about asking Binns today about the Chamber of Secrets? Harry recommended. Hermione fell silent for a few moments. That would work. Hopefully he doesn't get too peeved. I'm peeved as it is. I never knew you were a prankster, Hermione. You're working with Peeves now. Harry said. Hermione rolled her eyes and vapidly regarded Harry. That's not funny. I was just trying to break the ice. Anti-humor is what it's called. Well, you succeeded, unfortunately in the process you broke it by slipping on a banana peel and cracking the ice with your forehead. Harry grumbled incoherently. They fell silent for a minute. Hermione, do you really think there's a Chamber of Secrets? Hermione frowned. I'm not sure. All I know is that whatever attacked Mrs. Norris is dangerous. Dumbledore couldn't cure her, which is very alarming. Great, Harry said, his voice thick with sarcasm. I know, Hermione replied despondently. Now, let's think a little harder about the message. Let's assume there's something sneaking around the school. The heir of Slytherin has to be human, so he probably wants to accomplish his task by unleashing this thing. That's the whole point of opening the Chamber of Secrets. Now, this heir is obviously someone who hates Muggle-borns. If it's a student, and how can't it be unless it's a professor, no one can penetrate Hogwarts without Dumbledore knowing then it's most likely a Slytherin, since they are after all the heir of Slytherin. Harry let the information sink in and then put his mind to work. Malfoy. Malfoy, the heir of Slytherin? Hermione replied skeptically. Look at his family, Hermione. The whole lot of them has been in Slytherin, they adore Slytherin. They could easily be Slytherin's descendants, and who knows, maybe they've had the key to the chamber for centuries. I'm not too sure but it's possible, but we first need proof. How do we get the proof? We can spy on him, somewhere he feels safe enough to reveal important information to Crabbe and Goyle. We can ask Gohan to help us. He can let us in the Slytherin common room, I'm sure. Hermione sighed. I'd rather not. Harry eyed her, befuddled. Why not? We were supposed to have this conversation today anyway. Okay, you know the rumors about Gohan being the heir of Slytherin. A belligerent expression crossed Harry's face. Of course I know them. And are you going to tell me you believe them? The rumors are nonsense. All the supposed evidence is merely circumstantial. I know Harry, and I also don't believe the rumors. Nonetheless, we have to remain careful around Gohan because despite the evidence being circumstantial, it's somewhat worrisome. Summoning a snake and talking to it isn't exactly child's play. Frankly, we can't be too sure about Gohan and we should keep our plans to ourselves for now. Harry's face darkened. Just for now, Hermione weakly reaffirmed. Fine. How do we spy on Malfoy? There might be a way, Hermione said while dropping her voice. They stopped at the final corner necessary to reach the Great Hall. We'll probably be breaking about 50 rules doing this. Frankly, it doesn't matter, Harry darkly said. Okay, Harry, I was going to agree to doing it anyway. You don't have to use that tone on me. She gave him a sullen look. We have to get into the Slytherin common room when Malfoy is with Crabbe and Goyle. Harry's eyebrows rose. But how? Polyjuice potion. It transforms you into someone else. So we're going to use the Polyjuice potion to become Crabbe and Goyle, then try to get whatever information we can out of Malfoy. That's it. Wow, Harry, you actually followed me this time. Harry looked proud. I know. I can't believe it. Is actually following you a good thing or bad thing? Hermione scowled. Hey, I was just joking, okay. Harry chuckled when Hermione's expression lightened up. But seriously, this Polyjuice stuff sounds a little dodgy. I mean, imagine how terrible it'd be to be stuck as Crabbe and Goyle forever. I think I'd go insane. Harry pulled his messy hair to punctuate the comment. Hermione giggled. Silly Harry. But don't worry. It wears off after a while. The only problem is getting the ingredients, they'll be difficult to get a hold of. Snape said in potions that the ingredients are in a book called Most Potente Potions. Harry gawked. Wait, Snape talked about this? Where was I when he said that? Hermione rolled her eyes. In Harry's La La Land as always, dreaming about flying unicorns most likely. Harry grunted. Hey, how'd you know? The sensationalism warranted several laughs, to Harry's annoyment. I can't believe you actually daydreamed about that. I saw them on TV one time, Harry defended himself. It's okay, Harry, she replied, the last of her laughs dying down. Now where were we? Oh yes. The book is bound to be in the restricted section in the library, so. We have to go on another escapade, Harry bluntly said. Hermione considered the glum comment. How about we just ask for a teacher's signed permission? Harry sighed. Persuasion over sneaking. Sure, that's fine. They continued their way to the Great Hall. Once there, they purposely steered past Ron, who was eating his food with Seamus, and sat next to Ginny, who happened to be at breakfast, something disturbingly rare as of late. As they approached her, they noticed how sickly she looked. She didn't regard them at all when they sat next to her. Harry and Hermione looked at each other, their eyes both filled with alarm. Ginny, Hermione said, putting an arm around her. How do you feel? Ginny kept her aloof gaze on the wooden table. Terrible, she whispered, nearly inaudibly, as if she hadn't said a word in months. Does it have to do with Gohan? Ginny remained detached. Partly. And what's the other part? Harry anxiously asked. Ginny's dark eyes darted around the room, frenzied. After several moments, she began to speak. I am summoned, now more than ever. It eats me. I can't resist. He is trying to make me do things I don't want to do. Who is? Ginny tensed. Words failed to be uttered, even though she struggled to speak. What is it, Ginny? Harry asked. Ginny looked on the verge of tears, still struggling to speak out. Her body began to shake with anxiety. A manic glint filled Ginny's eyes. Oh no, I've said too much. He'll know, he'll know. Who'll know? Hermione asked, now increasingly alarmed. I can't tell you. I won't. I have to leave. Leave me alone. Ginny jumped from her seat and quickly strode away, out of the Great Hall, a monomaniacal dread in each and every step. Hermione was about to chase her, until a firm grip on Hermione's arm held her back. Harry. We need to know what's wrong with her. I know, but don't you see? We're not going to get anything out of her, we might exasperate the situation. But what do we do? We can't leave her like that. I'm not sure, Hermione. I don't know. All we can do is think this over. Brett layered Hermione's eyes. Think. Why must that sound so helplessly pointless now of all times? Did I ever tell you that what you did last night was really cool? Andres asked Gohan, while audaciously winking at a fourth year passing by. Yep, this is like the fifth time. It seems you can't get enough of my skills. Andres grinned. It was just really cool. I mean, when I dared you to take off the disillusionment charm and try to sneak the book away, I thought you'd pussy out. Gohan looked at his friend incredulously. Gohan-san, pussy out. Those two things just don't go together. Let's discuss here. Gohan and Andres hid in an empty class in order to have privacy and avoid any prying ears. Unfortunately, for Gohan, privacy meant sacrificing breakfast, something that the Saiyan was already feeling, his stomach growling loudly. Oh, I'm going to die of starvation. Gohan complained. Andres rolled his eyes. You're always so calm. I guess the only thing that can make you whine is food. You don't know how it feels, Andres. It's terrible. Andres scoffed. It can't be too bad. How about we try to wrap this up quickly and maybe then we can get a bite before class starts. Gohan glared at him. Why didn't you just follow my idea and wake up earlier? No one would be awake to eavesdrop. Hell no. I need my beauty sleep to keep this chiseled face glowing with sexiness. Gohan snorted. Sure, whatever you say, sleeping beauty. I'll make sure next time to get your charming prince too, so he can wake you up from your eternal sleep. Andres batted his eyelashes. Oh, Gohan. I can see it now, written in the stars, inevitable destiny. Me and my charming, sweet Prince Gohan. Gohan's eyes widened. Yuck, no. On second thought, I think I'll let you sleep forever. You know, it'll preserve your chiseled sexiness. A pout from Andres was a tacit display, thus, Gohan continued. Now on to serious matters. Andres clapped his hands cheerfully. Oh, goody. Time for the let's worry our asses off segment. Personally, I prefer the let's rip on Gohan segment or the let's make out with girls segment. Gohan scowled. I prefer the let's make Andres shut his damn mouth segment. You're just jealous that everything that comes out of my mouth is like music to the female specimen's ears. Oh, of course. How couldn't I be jealous of all your cheesy lines? Such impudence. That is malarkey. You should get a detention for such misguided audacity. I'll take that detention, shove it up my ass, then sneak it into your lunch. You shall pay for your temerity one day, Gohan-san, one day. Okay, time to cut it out. Cut what out? You know what? No, I don't. Drop it. Now. Drop what? Shut the hell up, Andres. A melodramatically shocked frown was set deeply on Andres' face. Geez, why didn't you ask before? No need to get pissed. A moment of silence. Now that you've finally shut up, Andres huffed. We can talk about what we've learned. Okay. Sure, Mr. Uncouth. Gohan rolled his eyes. Now, from what I've read, the Chamber of Secrets was created by Salazar Slytherin. He kept it a secret from the other founders. Making this to the point, no one knows where the Chamber of Secrets is, but the evidence seems imply that it does exist. It's rumored that a monster lies inside the chamber, and the heir of Slytherin would be able to control it and make it do as he or she willed. Obviously, taking into account the writing on the wall, the heir wants to attack the Muggle-borns. That's pretty much what the 20 pages explained. It's unlikely we'll find this Chamber of Secrets. We can try still, so we should focus primarily on figuring out who this heir of Slytherin is. Gohan nodded. Exactly. But of course, that won't be easy because of all the Muggle haters in our house. How about we make a list of all of them and do some detective work? Andres exclaimed excitedly. Gohan groaned. Only if we don't have secret names. What's that? You want secret names? Okay then Gohan. Remember, your hot cheeks, I'm the Dark Avenger. Gohan dully considered his friend, raising his hands to strangle the blithe Spanish boy. The next several days involved several spying sessions and name crossing, their search for the heir so far fruitless. Also, after failing the first time to get books to help Andres improve his magical ability, they had to go sneaking through the night again. Over the last several days Andres had been reading a lot of advanced material, and Gohan had been teaching him how to actually apply what he had learned, as well as providing the basic theory whenever Andres needed it, because a book assumed a prior understanding of these basics. Andres had been progressing rapidly, a naturally talented and unrelenting student Gohan noted. They professionally conducted every spy session. They had almost blown their cover one time when Andres saw Cho and foolishly shouted her name while he and Gohan were disillusioned and just behind a Slytherin prefect. Some smooth talking and use of the heir of Slytherin act helped them get out of the situation. Did I tell you what you did yesterday was beyond your usual stupid moments? Gohan inquired. Andres grunted, still embarrassed and disgruntled, Gohan's insistent teasing not helping his mood. Drop it, Gohan. Let's focus on Dada. Gohan smirked and raised an eyebrow. Focus on Dada. So on Andres like. There must be something wrong with you. Andres grumbled, so inaudibly that even Gohan's astute Saiyan hearing couldn't pick it up. Hello Gohan. Hello Andres, a dreamy voice came from behind the boys. Hi Luna, both boys greeted. Sit down, Gohan said, then got up and politely grabbed the chair next to him, making room for Luna. At the courteousness, Luna gave him a bright smile and then sat. Gohan sheepishly grinned back. Andres struggled to hold back snickers, his lip trembling. 3 heartbeats of silence later, the Saiyan regarded Luna. Andres and I were just talking about that little incident he had when we were spying on the Slytherin prefect. Oh yes, Luna exclaimed with dreamy excitement. You told me all about it. A slight lapse of concentration can bring upon dangerous consequences. I have to say that even though Andres is extremely bright, the asininity of the mistake does not in the least surprise me. Andres tensed and shot her a displeased look. What? I know I have these sudden urges, okay. Stop picking on me for developing faster than everyone else. What's wrong with letting my hormones naturally come out to express themselves? It's better than suppressing my urges like some wuss. Luna smiled at him without judgment. I don't know. I don't mind. Occasionally it can get you in trouble, so I give you advice. Throughout many cultures, suppressing urges is highly renowned, and rightfully so because urges can impair the mind's rationality. Recall my last sentence. Gohan smirked at the sight of Andres' puzzled expression. What was that? The Spanish boy drawled. She replied to every statement you made or question you asked. I can't believe you didn't realize that. You of all people. Didn't you tell me that one of the most important things to do when talking with a girl is to actually listen? Well, it seems the pupil has beaten the master on that part. Luna's tranquil smile edged into a more mocking one shockingly, while Andres scowled. Okay class, settle down now. As I explained in our previous lesson, today I will recite numerous tales of my daring adventures. Drama, debauchery, grand conquests worthy of paramount reverence. Lockhart exclaimed dramatically. Gohan and Andres sent each other overly shocked expressions, their jaws hanging wide open, their eyes almost popping out of their sockets. Luna saw the derision and giggled. Refulgent in their brilliance, coruscating in their incandescence, cogent in their enticement. Lockhart took a deep breath in order to shape suspense. Opaque in their obfuscation, Andres heftily drawled. Revolting in their effeteness. Torpid in their dullness. The boys' continued derision drew another fit of giggles from Luna. Lockhart continued. And occasionally, marked by macabre arduousness leading to almost impossibly dangerous quagmires of impasse requiring astute ingenuity from yours truly. Are pink teddy bears really that dangerous? Gohan sensationally asked Andres. What a stupid question, Gohan. Of course. Only the oh-so-handsome Gilderoy Lockhart himself can stop such a monster. You two are really silly, Luna said, hints of laughter ever present in her dreamy voice. Someone has to do it around here, or else the percentage of seriousness in the air skyrockets, Andres professionally remarked. And if that happens, the school's air supply becomes tainted with huge amounts of seriousness, turning every single student into a dull, sodden creature. What a nightmare. Exactly. They refrained from listening to Lockhart lest they cringe at his odious babbling. Luna sighed. Well, a small burst of seriousness in the air won't do much harm. Once again, I would like to offer my help to you two. I really can assist in finding the air. Don't worry about me. I can hold my own. The boys both glanced at each other, looking to confirm what to do. Acquiescence had become the latest thing for them, but now, as they continuously learned more about each other, it came naturally. Gohan turned his gaze toward Luna. If you really want to help us, then we'll let you. But Andres and I can still go as a duo without you when we feel it's not right to put you in danger. That's better than nothing, I guess. Mr. Sun, can you please help me with my demonstration? You can be the wolf and I will be my usual striking self, Lockhart's cheery voice urged. Andres snickered at the sight of the Saiyan's distraught face. Luna glanced curiously at the Saiyan. Fine, Gohan tersely replied. Being part of Lockhart's ridiculously loquacious story was not something the Saiyan looked forward to. Den's version of an unwarranted castigation. Lockhart gave the Saiyan a studious look. Cheer up, boy, you are, after all, working with the world's most famous wizard. Gohan got up and languidly strolled towards the front of the room. More like the world's most blathering wizard. Oh Kami, why? Gohan stood stiffly in front of Lockhart. Smiling, the 5-time winner of Witch's Weekly Smile Award placed both hands gently on Gohan's shoulders. Now Mr. Sun, get down on all fours. We need to make this a realistic performance. Snickers filled the room. Gohan grimaced, but then reluctantly got on all fours, although he first scooted away from Lockhart, he never wanted to be crouching on all fours right in front of Lockhart. He had dignity after all, who knows the jokes Andres would crack. Good, Lockhart said with usual extenuating smile. I can turn your head into a wolf's if you would like. Gohan blanched. That's okay, Professor. I'll be fine. Gohan did not want to entrust Lockhart with such a task. It was entirely possible that rather than it being a temporary transformation, it would end up being permanent. Very well then. I'll just place this fake wolf nose on you. Gohan groaned innately as a small furry nose was plopped over his. Oh, he looks so cute. A Ravenclaw girl squealed. Gohan blushed, still unaccustomed to receiving such compliments. What will that idiot make me do? Oh duh, Gohan, you read all his freaking books. Wait, should I? This is going to be awesome. I'm never going to let him live this down. Never. It was the second weekend of November. They were but a whit in the Silver and Emerald Sea, lurching back and forth like ceaseless waves crashing among each other. To the seas opposite was another sea, this one ruby and gold, each gilded wave turbulent with palpable emotion. East and west held 2 other bodies of water, these more pacified. In between the 4 seas, a frenzy of brooms whizzed past like slick whirls beneath the murky sky. The Saiyan's eyes easily held onto the side of Harry, who was ripping through the air, chasing the golden snitch, while Malfoy pursued only 2 heartbeats away. Andres had explained the rules of Quidditch to Gohan. The game sounded exciting, but the Saiyan's celestial senses removed the most visually stunning part of Quidditch, the speed. Yet, he felt a twinge of excitement for Malfoy of all people. True, Harry was Gohan's friend, and most of the people in Gohan's house were assholes, but Slytherin was his house. Gohan would never deny it, he was in the house for a reason. Next to him, Andre's eyes were wide and moving, while he cheered for Slytherin too. It's sad that one of the least Slytherin, according to the assholes, kids in the house, is the most passionate one too. Dude, Gohan, we really have to make the team next year. Gohan shrugged. What does that mean? Andres drilled. I'm not too sure. Maybe, if I have nothing else to do, Gohan flatly replied. Andres frowned. You make it sound like it's boring. I think it's okay but not super exciting. Something's wrong with you. Whatever, we have to make it still. And I'm sure we will. I've got my dad's genes in me. He used to play in a Spanish club team before becoming a curse breaker, and your agility is incredible, including your senses. They both turned their eyes back toward the action. A bludger was hurling toward Harry. Harry narrowly dodged it, and Gohan sighed in relief. George gave the bludger a powerful smack in Marcus Flint's direction, but the bludger abruptly changed its course, then shot back at Harry. Once again, Harry sank his head down, feeling the bludger almost light his hair alight with its speed. George for the second time smacked it, this time toward Malfoy. Incredibly, the bludger hurled back at Harry. What's going on? Bludgers don't act like that, Andres said as he grimaced. Gohan studied the field with apprehension, trying to find any abnormal Kai signatures, but everything felt normal. Harry took no time to think. He turned on an extra gear and tore his way through the wind. The bludger, however, trailed closely. Fred was properly positioned, waiting for the bludger on the other end. At the right moment, Harry gingerly pressured his broom and deftly dropped toward the field. Fred, with every ounce of strength he had, whacked the bludger off course. Crying a cheer, Fred victoriously shot his arm into the air. Shortly after, nonetheless, the bludger sped toward Harry yet again. Harry now was forced to fly off at full speed. Rain began to pour from the dark clouds, the rain splattering on Harry's glasses, blurring his vision. Slytherin lead, 60 points to 0. What am I going to do? There's a mad bludger chasing me, Slytherin are leading, and my vision is too blurry to look for the snitch. We need a timeout. Someone's tampered with the bludger, Fred said, as he rode alongside the blind Harry. George, on Harry's left, attempted to signal to Wood. Madam Hooch whistled, obviously, Wood had gotten the message. The silver and emerald sea jeered and stomped, looking like a swelling tide. What the hell is happening, Andres? Someone's tampered with the bludger. They have to stop the game then. Andres sighed. I guess Madam Hooch still hasn't noticed. The Saiyan's eyes became slits. But it's obvious that it's targeting Harry. Andres remained silent, unsure of what to say. Gohan glared at the field, staring at the soggy grass, scanning for anything out of the ordinary. Moments later, the Gryffindors were ready to recommence the game. The rain grew stronger. At Madam Hooch's whistle, Harry kicked off from the grass, alarmed Saiyan eyes following him. Harry flew higher and higher, zigzagging, crisscrossing, and looping aimlessly around. He kept flying around the stadium, seemingly arbitrarily. Suddenly, Harry brought his broom to a halt, flicking his eyes toward the snitch. Gohan's eyes widened. The bludger was but centimeters away from the unaware Harry, his attention solely on the snitch. Harry reached for it, his hand so darn close to it. And then suddenly he felt a tremendous pain as he wrapped his hand around the snitch. The whistle blew, signaling the end of the game. Ended ties, severed ties. Gryffindor had won, but Harry was knocked unconscious. The stands were fairly quiet despite the exciting victory, most students simply hoping Harry was okay. Andres, I'm going to check on Harry. Gohan didn't care that Slytherin had lost. He was just worried about his friend. Andres gave him a nod. Gohan hurried down to the pitch, Hermione and Ron also approaching, although from the opposite end. Harry's Gryffindor teammates were rushing toward Harry as well. Gohan arrived first. Just as he did, his ears perked up, his body tensed, his instincts took over and he whipped around, catching the speeding bludger with incredible ease, as if it were just a balloon floating in the air. A second after, with his free hand, he took out his wand, cast a spell, and destroyed it, all this with a methodical grace. He noticed the chatter from the stands died down. He looked up. The staff and students gawked at him, his display of strength, compounded by him being just 11, incredible. Would I have to go and do that? Then again, it could have been worse if I hadn't moved. If it had hit me dead on, I would have just stood there like nothing happened. Yeah, that'd be worse. He turned around at the sound of Hermione's voice, meeting the faces of her, Ron, and the Gryffindor team. Just how did you do that? Hermione asked, looking at him with both amazement and suspicion. It's just a simple spell that can destroy certain objects. I can teach it to you if you'd like. I wasn't talking about that. Hermione scowled. I know that spell. I'm talking about you stopping the bludger with one hand so easily. Oh, that. Gohan chuckled nervously. I've been doing martial arts for a while, so I guess that helped. I find it hard to believe that's sufficient. You're only 11. You'd be amazed by what you can do when you're darn good at martial arts. Gohan said enthusiastically, attempting to cover up his unease. Hermione nodded slowly, deciding to stop pursuing the subject since she needed to check on Harry. Lockhart was now beside Harry. Amazing display of strength, Mr. Sun. I've been hearing quite a few of your fellow female peers admiring your exploit. They're now asking all sorts of questions about the musculature underneath those robes. Lockhart gave him a wink. Gohan couldn't help but blush at the supposed admiration given by his female peers. Your exploit of strength reminds me of a very early morning after an evening of grand festivities commemorating my having saved a village from werewolves. I had forgotten my wand back in the village and was wandering around with a few friends I had made the past night, still a bit tipsy off rum. And you had to fight off one last werewolf with your bare hands. PG. 221 Wanderings with Werewolves, Gohan said monotonously. You never cease to amaze me with your studiousness, Mr. Sun. Although I imagine reading my books must not even feel like homework since they concern such enthralling adventures. Exactly, Professor. They're a real treat. Gohan's voice was thick with sarcasm. Lockhart's cheeks looked ready to burst from his big smile. Well, do you know this one? I had already spent 2 weeks in Siberia one winter, alone, lost, without supplies, utterly famished and sleep deprived. Professor? Yes, Ms. Granger. Aren't you going to help Harry? Oh, why yes of course. Gohan paled. This fool is going to make it worse. Harry began to stir. He's coming too, said Lockhart. Harry's eyes shot open. No, no. Not him, please not him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He must be delusional, Lockhart said, discounting Harry's words. Ron grimaced and Gohan stepped in. Professor, Madame Pomfrey can take care of it. It's her job, after all. Lockhart gave him a smile. I'm sure Harry would rather have his injury healed right away than spend time locked up in a dull old hospital, right Harry boy? No, no. See. Lockhart took out his wand. I've done this countless times, Harry. No need to worry. Step back everyone, green light flashed. A few seconds later, Gohan turned his head to Harry's arm. Oh no. He's an even bigger fool than I thought. Harry's arm looked like a deflated balloon now, Lockhart having stopped the pain with the catch that Harry no longer had bones. I must have lost my concentration. It could have happened to anyone in this darn rain. Well, at least the worst of it is over. Just head up to the hospital wing, Harry, and Madame Pomfrey will do the rest. Mr. Sun, Ms. Granger, Mr. Weasley, mind escorting your friend to the hospital wing. The next morning Harry awoke to a reboned arm after having had to endure a night of searing pain. After breakfast, he was on his way to the Gryffindor Tower, looking for Hermione. Percy mentioned something about Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, so Harry went straight there. Once there, he walked over to the stalls, hearing hushed whispers that sounded like those of Ron and Hermione. I'm back, Harry announced as he opened the stall. Hermione yelped and Ron jumped. Huh, so you two weren't snugging after all. They gave him incredulous looks. Harry. Gross, why would I ever want to snug Hermione? Hey. What was that for? Hermione scowled. You make it sound like I'm some disgusting cow. I didn't mean like that. Really? Hermione crossed her arms and huffed. Then what exactly did you mean by that? You guys. Harry jumped in, knowing that the two were dangerously close to beginning another one of their squabbles. Why are you here? Hermione turned around from Ron to look at Harry. We've made up. Ron has acknowledged he was in the wrong regarding Gohan. Mostly. I'm still suspicious of him. So, I told him about our plan to use Polyjuice Potion to figure out whether Malfoy is the heir. Yeah, and after making up we decided to get started on the Polyjuice Potion. We thought this was the safest place to hide it. Harry nodded and gave Ron a smile. I'm glad to have you back. I missed you, buddy. Ron returned a sheepish grin. Yeah, so did I. Sorry for all that mess with Gohan. Seeing him protecting you made me realize that he isn't all that bad. I'll admit, I'm still a bit angry about what he did to my sister, but as you said, we all make mistakes, and he apologized. Harry nodded again, locked the stall door behind him, and once he turned back to face Ron and Hermione his face looked serious. Do you know about Colin? Yes, we overheard Professor McGonagall and Professor Flitwick discussing the incident this morning. No other students know about it as far as I know, but it's only a matter of time before word leaks out. Hermione returned to preparing the potion, throwing the last bundle of fluxweed required. She reached for the bundles of knotgrass, only to have Harry speak up again. There was more. He paused, waiting for Hermione to turn around. Once she did, he continued. Dobby visited me last night. He explained everything to Ron and Hermione, emphasizing the fact that the Chamber of Secrets had in fact been opened before and resolving the mystery of the tampered bludger. Bloody hell, he could have killed you trying to save your life. I think Dobby might be the real threat to you, Harry. Hermione frowned. He's just trying to help. Ron looked thoughtful. So it sounds to me that it's possible Lucius Malfoy opened the chamber when he was a student here and now our good old pal Draco is following in his father's footsteps. But what if it isn't Malfoy? Who have you two decided on as your next suspect? Harry and Hermione grimaced at each other. Hermione let Harry speak. She decided to resume the potion making, throwing heaps of knotgrass into the concoction. There's no need for us to think about that, Ron. We just need to stay focused on our current mission. Ron regarded Harry skeptically. It's Gohan, isn't it? Hermione continued the potion making wordlessly, while Harry shifted uneasily. Yes, it is. So you two don't trust him either? Not entirely, Harry admitted. Ron nodded slowly. The things he's done are strange. Did you know he stopped the bludger with just one hand? It was flying at top speed, and he made it look like he was catching a balloon. Yeah, Percy told me about it this morning. I just don't know. You two already know I speak Parselting, so that in itself isn't the reason to be suspicious, it's just that Harry trailed off. Hermione whipped around, unable to concentrate on the potion. There's a good chance he's hiding something, Hermione completed. She sighed. The way he answered my question about catching the bludger made it obvious to me he probably is. We can't trust him. We simply can't trust someone who isn't being truthful with us. Placing our trust in the wrong people may jeopardize our plans and the safety of this school. The boys agreed. Hermione, do you think him catching the bludger and his martial arts explanation gives your theory about Gohan being that? Harry paused, unsure if he should bring up the theory in front of Ron, but then decided it would do no harm, and so he continued, kid more weight. Yes. Ron switched his gaze between the two repeatedly. What kid? The delivery boy, Hermione said, her brow furrowed and expression thoughtful. The delivery boy? Ron asked, his words hanging in the cold castle's air as he struggled to recollect a memory. The delivery boy, his eyes widened. No way. You know about him? Harry asked. Of course I do. Everyone watched the Cell games. My family wasn't an exception. He did look like Gohan. He had blonde hair and blue eyes though, but I guess that could have been a disguise to protect his identity. He rolled his eyes at another part of the memory. Ginny had a huge crush on that kid the entire summer. She would never shut up about him. Wouldn't it be ironic if Gohan were him all along? Just don't tell anyone about our suspicions, okay Ron? We don't know if they're true, and if they are, Gohan deserves his privacy, Hermione stated, breaking out of her thoughts. Yeah, I won't. It just gets me thinking, if Gohan really is that kid, he should be able to wreck the air of Slytherin and his monster. That delivery boy, Ron whistled. What a lunatic. In a good way, of course. 3 days had passed since the opening Quidditch game. Gohan's display of incredible strength and his supposed martial arts prowess provoked mixed reactions, the general lack of athleticism and physical prowess in the wizarding world, making his physical capabilities that much more astonishing. Students who clung onto the belief that Gohan was the heir would shiver in fear at the slightest look Gohan gave them, and if he happened to talk to them, they'd do their best to not offend him. Some boys kept on telling him how wicked and mental he was and wanted him to teach them martial arts. Some girls would stare at him, a glaze of curiosity and fantasy in their eyes, wondering what exactly was underneath those robes. This reaction was the one that made Gohan the most uncomfortable. He really didn't like the feeling that they were undressing him with their eyes. Gohan hated the attention, but at least the air of Slytherin rumors about him had been dying down since then. He had obviously been very concerned when Harry was hurt, despite Gohan being a Slytherin and Harry a Gryffindor, it certainly wasn't an act. He had even protected the boy who lived from being hurt further. This had been enough to change the minds of many students and had cast Gohan in a significantly more positive light. I'm so jealous of you, Andre said as he checked the condition of his plant, eyeing it hopefully. I don't blame you. My plant's looking great. Gohan exclaimed. He finished noting down the last measurements of his plant and then gave Andres a proud smile. This had been a side project Professor Sprout had assigned her first-year herbology classes. It was fairly complicated. There were 2 weeks left before she'd grade them, and Gohan's plant, to his great satisfaction, was the biggest and healthiest in all the first-year classes. Ugh, no, not about that. Although I do wish my plant would grow some more already. Andres frowned, his plant hadn't grown in the past 2 weeks. Herbology was definitely his worst subject. Looks pretty pathetic compared to mine. You better hope she grades yours before she grades mine, otherwise she'll have the same realization. Andres glared at his friend. Why do you have to be so perfect at everything? Whatever, it's just herbology. I'm great at everything else. Not as great as me. Piss off, Gohan. Sheesh, someone's moody. So what are you actually jealous about? Andres looked to the front of the class. Professor Sprout still hadn't arrived, she was already 5 minutes late. The first and second year girls are checking you out all the time. You're some mysterious badass with toned arms and a six-pack now. Don't be jealous. All this attention is making me uncomfortable. Are you serious? Andres asked him, shocked. If I were you, I'd be milking my new reputation for all it's worth. His eyes glazed over. I'd start with the Gryffindor girls first. Something about that fiery house rivalry would make it that much better. Gohan rolled his eyes. You're ridiculous. Second would be the Hufflepuff girls. They're the cutest of them all, and their loyalty is unmatched. He boisterously declared, yielding the gaze of the Hufflepuff girl a few feet away from them. He winked at her, and she returned an amused smile. Quiet down, Don Juan, Gohan said. And to cap off my grand adventure. Andres continued unabated, his words bold and brazen, the rest of the class turning toward him, as they were accustomed to doing. This was an all too familiar scene. I'd move on to Luna. The weird ones are the real freaks in bed, Andres said, this time more quietly, slyly, alluringly. He gave Gohan a wink and smile. Gohan was furious just as Andres had expected him to be to Andres' delight. Andres snickered and looked at him triumphantly. No need to be so upset, mi amigo. I was only joking. Even if I weren't, I'm not sure why you look so mad. Luna is single, she's fair game. There's nothing wrong with good friends becoming more than friends, after all. So, what's your problem? Gohan grunted. I'm just protective of her. I don't want anyone to hurt her. That's all. You know I would treat Luna right since we're such good friends. So that doesn't answer my question. Are you hiding something from your best friend? Just shut your big mouth. Professor Sprout is finally here. After herbology and their subsequent lunch, double charms with the Ravenclaws would follow. Before that, however, they were enjoying the last 10 minutes of their break in the quad with Luna, having found her sitting at a table reading the Quibbler. Have you heard the news, Luna? Gohin asked as he and Andres sat down. Luna peeked from the top of her magazine, which happened to be upside down to Gohin's bemusement. About another sighting of the crumpled horned snorkack in the Swedish forests. Her voice had a breathless quality to it. Gohin and Andres looked at her blankly. Oh no, Luna. Sounds exciting though, Andres remarked. Luna put down her magazine and nodded. Very. So what news are you referring to? She asked as she looked at Gohin. Colin. Oh, yes. Truly unfortunate. He's a nice boy. You know him? Yes, we've in the past discussed his desire to be a photographer for the Quibbler someday in the future. He has shown me much of his work and I am quite impressed by it. Did you know he's compiled 3 albums of Harry Potter photos he's taken? The first album is titled An Hour by Hour Look at an Ordinary Potter Weekday, the second An Hour by Hour Look at an Ordinary Potter Weekend, and the third, my personal favorite, An Hour by Hour Look at an Unusual Potter Weekend. His fourth album, An Hour by Hour Look at an Unusual Potter Weekday is still in the works and I'm anticipating it with much excitement. Luna paused for a few seconds and then smiled at both Gohin and Andres, who were looking at each other with astonishment. Exactly, his work is remarkable. His diligence is such that I believe if anyone will finally be able to photograph the crumpled horned snorkack, it'll be him. Speaking of crumpled horned snorkacks. Yeah, speaking of crump-horned snorkins, Andres interrupted, trying to return the conversation to where it was going before Luna's tangent. If he hadn't stepped in at this point, no one would have been able to stop Luna. Crumpled horned, SN. No. It's rude to interrupt people, Luna. Andres had put his hand over her mouth as she had tried to correct him. But you're the one For Merlin's sake, Luna. Where are your manners? Gohin jumped in as Luna struggled to speak against Andres' hand. Andres removed his hand from Luna's mouth once he felt she had gotten the point. She gave them an apologetic and guilty look. She turned her head to Andres. I'm sorry, Andres, and then to Gohin. I'm sorry, Gohin. I hadn't noticed I was interrupting. I occasionally get lost in my thoughts and end up forgetting someone else is speaking. We forgive you. Andres gave her a stern look. Just try not to do it again. She gave them a small smile. Okay. After a few moments of silence, Gohin spoke up. Back to where we were. Yes, unfortunate as you said, and extremely worrisome. There's hardly a doubt in my mind now, I believe the Chamber of Secrets is real and has been opened, as does Andres. What do you think, Luna? Luna looked thoughtful. Gohin, Andres. Yeah? The boys inquired. I also believe the chamber has been opened and I really want to join you two in your escapades. I know we've discussed this before, but you two haven't lived up to your promise. Finding the Chamber of Secrets is an urgent matter. I can provide valuable assistance. I don't know. Gohin said. But why? The more help you receive, the greater your chances of finding the Chamber of Secrets. I don't want to put you in danger. Luna actually seemed slightly frustrated for once. I can take care of myself. Luna, Andres and I have this under control, Gohin said firmly. Hey, Gohin, Luna is right, Andres said, reassuringly putting his hand on Gohin's back. The more help the better, and we both know how smart our sweet little Ravenclaw is. Luna smiled at his comment while Gohin sighed. I just don't want you to get hurt, Luna. Andres rolled his eyes. Cut it out, you wuss. She's a big girl and as she said she can take care of herself. She's intelligent enough to understand the risks she'll face and she has enough courage to face them. Those are the only requirements for joining us. Having a dick is not one of them. Besides, she's pureblood. If anyone out of the three of us is in danger, it's you, Gohin. Thank you for your endorsement, Andres. Gohin. He had to give in. 2 against 3 it is. Sure, Luna. Perfect. You won't regret it. As talented as you boys are, I'm skeptical of your ability to ward off Eliopaths. But there's no need to worry now, as I know a great way to repel them. Fishbone necklaces. They're a bit smelly, but they're worth it if you were to ask me. Immediately after charms, Andres and Luna were on their way to the Ravenclaw Tower, Andres having asked Luna if she could let him in so he could give Cho a surprise visit. Gohin hadn't tagged along. Instead, he had gone to find his 2 Gryffindor friends, Harry Potter and Ms. Granger. Andres couldn't remember her first name. He just knew that was who Gohin was talking about. According to Gohin, Ron Weasley was beginning to warm up to him, although that really wasn't saying much, considering that Ron had not too long ago put Gohin in the same category as he put Malfoy in his mind. So maybe he'd be hanging out with Ron Weasley as well. Andres didn't think much more than that about Gohin's other friends. Andres had never formally met them. If he never did, it would be fine, and if he did, that would also be fine. All he knew was that the golden trio of Harry, Hermione, and Ron were quite concerned with heroic endeavors. He already got enough of his daily dose of heroism from Gohan. There was no need for him to become best buds with the other three too. Best to diversify the types of friends you had, was Andre's philosophy. He was accomplishing that skillfully, having acquainted himself with and befriended many Ravenclaws, Hufflepuffs, and a few Slytherins in the past 2.5 months. Gryffindors, at least the first years and second years, were simply too absorbed in the house rivalry between them and Slytherins for them to accept Andres. Despite Andres pushing Gohan to meet new people, it seemed to Andres' frustration that Gohan couldn't care less about popularity or how many people he knew. He was fine with restricting his circle of friends to Andres, Luna, the Golden Trio, and the Weasley twins. Andres broke out of his own thoughts, realizing that they had been walking in silence. Although he knew Luna didn't mind silence and even enjoyed it at times, he himself never felt comfortable in such a state. Charms was pretty boring, don't you think? I've never been bored in Charms, so I'd have to disagree with you on that one. Aw come on. We've spent the last 2 classes discussing Spongify. How can't you say that's dull compared to Incendio? And pretty useless too. That is something you have yet to learn, Andres. Everything has a use, you just have to be creative enough to put it to good use. I guess you're right. It's still boring, though. They climbed the spiral staircase that led to the Ravenclaw Tower's entrance. Andres had climbed this staircase many times with Joe. The Ravenclaw Tower was a welcome change to the Slytherin dungeon, and he'd often find himself envying Cho for having such a great location, common room, and set of dormitories. They were definitely Andre's favorite out of the other 3 houses. A minute later they arrived at the entrance, a door with a bronze knocker in the shape of an eagle. What work can one never finish? It asked. After a few moments of thought, Luna opened her mouth to answer only to be interrupted by Andres, his arm motioning her to stop. She gave him an inquiring look. I got this one. Just give me a second. He puffed his chest as he stroked his chin, deep in thought. He raised a sole finger, signaling that he was ready to answer. Making women happy. The door didn't budge. I can't believe you said that. Luna giggled. What? Andres replied indignantly. It's true. Once Luna calmed down, she said, an autobiography. The door opened. Andres gave Luna an impressed look. You Ravenclaws. She looked proud. It's good I wasn't sorted in Ravenclaw, otherwise I would have been stuck outside too many times to count. How embarrassing that would be. Luna laughed at the thought. I would have to constantly come to your rescue. You'd owe me. I think my magnanimous presence is quite enough to make up for any such incurred costs. Oh, Andres, you are quite the confident one, aren't you? The Ravenclaw common room was wide and circular, its carpet a beautiful midnight blue, its ceiling domed and painted with stars. Cho wasn't in the common room, and so Andres went up to her dormitory. He knocked on the door. Cho's doormate informed him that Cho was at a club meeting, and so Andres decided to go up with Luna to her dormitory and hang out until Cho came back. One of Luna's doormates was there. Andres recognized her. Elizabeth was one of those people who fell in the unclear category between acquaintance and friend. Well, that's how he viewed her. He was quite certain she had a crush on him. She looked up and saw Luna. Oh, it's you. Once she saw Andres he had been trailing behind Luna she gasped. What are you doing here? Oh, where are my manners? She berated herself. How are you, Andres? She asked seductively. What's up? Andres responded, his voice cool, composed, detached. Not much. Just studying for our data exam tomorrow. Cool. So, you're friends with Luna? Elizabeth asked him, disbelief in her tone. Yeah, I love this girl. She's awesome. Elizabeth looked stunned. Oh really? After a few moments of thought, she turned to Luna and gave her a smile. We should hang out sometime, Luna. We've never had a chance now that I think about it. Her words were sincere. Luna smiled. Okay. Well, I'll leave you two alone. I have to get going to meet up with my friends. Bye Andres, bye Luna. See you Liz. Andres said. Bye Elizabeth. Once she left, Andres turned to Luna and grinned. Being friends with the great Andres has many perks. Very true. After discussing a number of things and several laughs later, Andres decided to finally pose the question he'd been itching to ask. So, Luna. What do you think of Gohan? He was looking to have some fun with Luna, just as he often had with Gohan. He had never really teased her, but now that they were alone, he wanted to have a go at her for some Snickers. Luna smiled. Why do you ask? Oh, you know, just wondering. She simply nodded. He's very kind, extraordinarily talented and intelligent, and really funny. I'm funnier though, right? Luna looked thoughtful. Yes, you are, but he's more consistent with the quality of his humor. Andres eyed her dangerously. I'm just being honest. Fine. Is that all you think about Gohan? I could go into more detail if you'd like me to. Yeah. Okay. I'm amused by his various idiosyncrasies. One example is his tendency to put his right index finger on the tip of his nose whenever he gets frustrated with you. Another is his tendency to bite his lips and stroke his pen when I talk to him. Another is his tendency to bob his head side to side and slightly pucker his lips whenever he's contemplating a light or comical response during a conversation. And yet another. Andre's laughter interrupted Luna. That's not really what I was looking for, but you're spot on with those observations. You're a riot, Luna. Luna grinned. Thank you. Once his laughter died down, he resumed his mission. What I was really wondering was if you think Gohan is. Andres paused, shaping suspense. Sexy. Luna looked puzzled. Sexy? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I know that through sex humans reproduce and that there are two biological sexes, but I'm not familiar with the adjective form. The smirk became thwarted frustration. How about hot? I wouldn't say hot. Whenever he hugs me, he's very warm, it's quite comforting, not hot though. Andres rolled his eyes. A hibismacker catch your eye? Luna, come on. He let out a long sigh, racking his brain for another way to get his point across to her. How about cute? Luna tilted her head to the side. Is that what you were trying to ask all along? Andres nodded. Well, Luna began. For once, she wasn't blunt, but rather seemed to stop and think about whether she should say how she felt. Andre's grin slowly began to grow. Yes, Luna dear. You seem to be enjoying yourself quite a bit, Luna calmly observed. I am. Don't try to distract me. I'm not. I'm just making an observation. Sure. A few more seconds passed, Luna's gaze no longer on Andres, but rather on the blue and bronze Ravenclaw tapestry on the opposite wall. I'll get back to you on that one. No, that's not how this works, Luna. You never told me how you were going to surprise Joe. I asked you not too long ago, remember? Luna Lovegood, too embarrassed to answer a question. I thought I'd never see the day. Luna looked down at her feet and put a hand on the back of her neck, not sure what to say, for once a bit uncomfortable. At Luna's reaction, Andres snickered some more. He gave her a reassuring hug. It's okay, Luna. I'm just being my usual teasing self. I've had my fun. I won't torture you anymore. Okay. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself, she said, as she gave him a weak smile. You're really too sweet. Andres shook his head in feigned disapproval. I did have a more serious question I've been meaning to ask you, though. Andres almost didn't want to know the answer to this question, afraid that Luna's answer would confirm his suspicions. Yes. Do Joe and her friends make fun of you? Do they call you loony? He had to ask. He cared about Luna and he didn't want anyone to hurt her, especially Joe and her friends, considering that they were Ravenclaws too. Luna deserved to feel accepted by her house, the whole point of houses was to be with people that would accept you. Yes, she was different and quite odd. Andres had never had a friend like her. When he had first met her, he had felt weirded out, but he would eventually find her oddness endearing. Over the months he had developed a fondness for the girl, her heart was innocent and pure, filled with a kindness he had never seen in another person. He'd protect her from anyone. Luna cast her gaze down again. Yes, she does. She's the one who came up with the name. Andre's face felt hot all of a sudden. He had been expecting this, but the confirmation and the extra detail that Joe had been the first to call Luna that name made him angrier than he had expected he'd be. Luna looked up and noticed Andre's anger. Andres, don't be angry with Joe. She's your girlfriend. I know I'm quite different and it's hard for others to accept me. It's not her fault, she said, her voice calm and reassuring. No, Luna, you know it yourself that it is her fault, that what she's doing is not right. You know that it's wrong to attempt to embarrass and humiliate another person just because they don't conform, just because they're not afraid to be themselves no matter how far they deviate from the norm. I don't care if she's my girlfriend. I'm going to do my best to make her stop both her and her friend's reprehensible behavior and give you an apology. Luna gave him an almost sad smile, her eyes wet with welling tears, tears that did not actually flow, but were enough to show Andres how happy he had made her. It wasn't a teasing being to put to a stop that made her happy, it was how much he cared about her, how he'd be willing to protect her even against his own girlfriend. She loved her friends, Andres and Gohan. She had never in her life had friends like these two. Thank you so much, Andres. She gave him a hug full of a friend's love and appreciation. Andres couldn't help but let his anger dissipate and have it be replaced by happiness. There they are. Finding his friends was always easy because of his ability to sense Kai. Harry and Hermione were sitting at the Gryffindor table, along with Ron, chatting away, smiling and laughing every now and then. Seems they've mended their ties, Gohan thought. He hadn't seen Harry since the incident and he had wanted to check up on him. He knew he was okay, but it wouldn't hurt to ask how he was doing. Plus, he had another question in mind. He walked toward them. "Hey guys, how are you all? It's nice to see you Gohan." "We're doing well," Hermione answered. "Seems your arm's all better, Harry. I'm glad. I tried to convince Lockhart to let it be, but you know Lockhart. He's simply too gracious to not try to help, no matter how much of a fool he reveals himself to be whenever he tries." Harry chuckled. "Yeah, I know. I'm just thankful he didn't screw up even more than he did." Hermione gave the boys a displeased look. "It was just a mistake. It could have happened to anyone." Ron snorted. "A mistake? The only mistake is Lockhart." Gohan and Harry laughed while Hermione grew increasingly exasperated. Ron gave Gohan a friendly look. "Also, Gohan, I wanted to apologize. You're not a bad guy. I realize that now. I know we all make mistakes. Merlin knows how many I've made." Gohan smiled. "Thanks, Ron. I really appreciate it." Gohan sat down with his friends at the Gryffindor table and enjoyed his time with them. It had been a while since he had been with the complete Golden Trio. It wouldn't last long, unfortunately. "So Harry, how's the Chamber of Secrets hunt going?" Gohan asked, giving him a knowing smile. "I'm sure you're up to something. You're a hero at heart after all." The trio exchanged nervous looks discreetly. The Saiyan, however, could catch anything. "Thanks, Gohan. I see where you're coming from, considering what we did our first year, but this time we've been sitting it out. It's too much for second years to handle, you know. I'm sure Dumbledore will be able to sort it out." Harry thought he caught a flicker of pain in Gohan's eyes. Harry really wished he hadn't needed to lie to him, he felt awfully bad about it, but Hermione was right, they couldn't trust someone who wasn't being upfront with them with something as big as the Chamber of Secrets. It was too dangerous. Gohan looked past the three, staring out the large window several tens of meters away. Harry was lying to him. He understood why they didn't trust him. He wasn't being honest with them and they sensed it, but he couldn't help but feel hurt despite understanding their reason. He couldn't help but feel upset, frustrated, and angry. Anger was rising up in him for some strange reason. Cold anger, washing over him like a frigid dark wave, despite his mind's rationalizations, despite his usual compassionate and tranquil nature. They didn't trust him no matter what he had done, despite his numerous apologies, despite how much kindness he had shown them, despite having protected Harry from a bludger only a few days ago. He set his cold, hard gaze on the three. They shuffled, visibly perturbed. "That's too bad. I thought the Golden Trio would have a good plan to find the heir in the Chamber of Secrets." The other three remained silent. "Anyway, I've got to get going." He turned around to leave and left them with one last penetrating look instead of words. "Good luck. You'll need it." The Slytherin common room was nearly empty, Vidal Satan, struggling to get through one of Lockhart's nauseating books of conceit before tomorrow's exam. She never studied for Dada unless it was absolutely necessary, and Pansy Parkinson, on the opposite side of the room, reading the letters her owl brought her several hours ago during breakfast, its only occupants. Vidal had never liked Pansy. She had never shown it because Pansy had always treated her well. Her manner, however, was that of a sycophant. Vidal couldn't respect her, couldn't take her words seriously. Fame was all Pansy cared about, even the common Slytherin ideal of pureblood, an ideal Vidal found both farcical and sickening, took a backseat. Vidal being the daughter of the world's most famous man meant Pansy would do all she could to gain her esteem. Worse, there were many others like her in Hogwarts. First years, second years, third years, Gryffindors, Slytherins, Hufflepuffs, Ravenclaws all wanted to be the friend of the daughter of the Earth Savior. It made Vidal sick to her stomach. Perhaps the worst offender was a professor, the very professor who authored the book she was reading this moment. Professor Lockhart. She shuddered. Unlike all the other girls in Hogwarts, she considered his smile creepy and his words of self-praise overweening. The Vidal, no matter how great of a wizard he was, being ensnared in the webs of egotism, made him nothing more than a person worthy of aversion and pity. Lockhart would often make Vidal stay after class. He'd praise her progress, ask endless questions about her father, note how alike he and her father were in the adulation they received and the great glory of their respective accomplishments, and would often voice aloud his desire to stage some sort of conference or event with the great Hercule. The wizarding world would love it. It'd be the biggest event of the century, the two greatest men on the planet together in the public eye. We would recount stories of divine inspiration and significance, of unsullied heart and determination, of unprecedented valor and boldness. This needs to happen, the people deserve it, no, the people need it. Lockhart's eyes sparkled while Vidal gagged. There was more to Vidal's dislike of Lockhart than just his arrogance. She worried her father was on the same path. Ever since he had defeated Cell and had become world-renowned for his victory, his ego had been growing inexorably like a weed, swelling like wave, becoming more intractable and distasteful with each day. She had been praying to Kami that he would not end up like Lockhart. All this servile nonsense from the students and Lockhart made her few encounters with Sun almost enjoyable. They rarely spoke to each other, but when they did their mutual enmity was obvious, and she was beginning to take an odd pleasure in it. As wrong as he was for calling her father a buffoon of a martial artist and blackmailing her, at least he didn't worship the ground her father walked, at least he had some self-respect, at least he didn't annoy her with pathetic attempts to be her friend. If there were more people like Sun, she would not have had to worry about her father ending up like Lockhart. This is unbearable. She shut the book, deciding that there was no chance she'd be able to get through it at this moment and that she'd be better off trying again after dinner. She went up to her dormitory, her dorm mates elsewhere, and lay down on her bed. The last few days her mind had been occupied by Sun, his exploit during the past Quidditch game having increased her suspicions of him. She had already known he was a martial artist. That had been made abundantly clear 2 months ago during their fight. Sun beating her was one thing, she only had a few years of martial arts experience, after all, although she knew she was extraordinarily talented for her age, but him catching a bludger flying at top speed was ludicrous. The day after the game, Vidal had managed to get a hold of one to see how much it weighed. She had barely been able to pick it up. She had asked Professor Flitwick about bludgers, and he had informed her they weighed 150 pounds and had a top speed of 60 to 70 miles per hour. There definitely was more to Sun than he let on. He must have had years of intensive training in order to have become so skilled, so fast, so strong. Who was his sensei? How long had he been training? How much was he hiding exactly? Was he the heir of Slytherin? Vidal groaned. She had no idea exactly how she was going to find the answers to these questions. For the first two, she decided she might as well go straight to the source. Who knows? Maybe his big ego wouldn't be able to resist the chance to brag to Vidal and answer her questions. For the last two, well, that would take time and careful planning. Her thoughts began to fade, drowsiness sweeping away her energy, and her eyes struggled to stay open. Just before dozing off, a faint memory flashed in her mind so quickly, too quickly, a lost memory of a wild boy with a sword. You must be joking. There's no way Uric the oddball was able to talk to jellyfish. I know the guy wore a jellyfish as a hat, but that just means he's weird, Gohin said as he quickly snatched a bread roll and a muffin from Luna's plate. He was sure she wouldn't notice, despite her sitting right next to him. Luna gave him a disbelieving look. I saw that. She narrowed her eyes slightly, looking as vicious as the dreamy-eyed girl possibly could, which wasn't saying much. I just told you I haven't eaten a thing today, yet you still stole my food. The elves are done making food for the rest of the night. Come on, Luna. I'm starving. Gohin, you just ate enough pot pie for an army of dabberblumps. Gohin looked at her blankly. Is that a lot? Yes. It's not my fault I get really hungry. If I could, I would have gotten more food earlier, but the elves hate me for some reason. Gohin scowled. They only let me eat a certain number of plates, no more. It's maddening. Luna laughed. What? They hate you because you make them work twice as hard because of your eating habits. They already work hard enough without you putting in endless orders of pot pie. Gohin pouted and gave her big sad eyes. I can't help it. Luna sighed, still a bit reluctant, but Gohin always had a way of capturing her sympathy. I know. How about this? You can have 3/4 of my bread and 1/4 of my muffin. How about the other way around? Gohin gave her a hopeful look, testing just how much he could get from Luna. Luna shook her head firmly, her eyes unyielding. Sorry. Take it or leave it. Gohin growled. Fine. And what else? Her eyes probed his. Thank you, Ms. Lovegood, the cleverest witch of all. Gohin restrained himself from rolling his eyes at the last bit. Luna gave him a satisfied smile. Hey guys. Andres stood before them, on the other side of the table. Hello Andres. Hey Andres. How was your visit with Cho? Luna inquired. Good, Andres lied, as he sat down. He made sure to avert Luna's concerned eyes, instead keeping his gaze down on the table, patiently waiting for his food. He cursed when he realized he was too late for dinner. Are you sure? Luna asked again. Yeah, I'm sure. Andres responded half-heartedly. Gohin had never seen Andres like this. Andres had always been so spirited, cheerful, and relaxed. Andres, we're your friends. You can tell us if something's wrong. Just like I tell you about my issues, you can do the same. I'm good. Come on, Andres. What is it? Gohin prodded. Nothing. Stop it. Just tell us, Gohin insisted testily. For the last time, I'm fine. He looked up at them, attempting to reaffirm what he had just said, but his expression was one of frustration and gloom. It's obvious you're not. Stop being so goddamn dramatic and tell us already, Gohin demanded, raising his voice, angry that Andres would not confide in them, his best friends. Gohin had always told him about his troubles, his father, Goku, having taught Gohin to be completely open with him and his mother, to be perfectly comfortable to confide in them. He had had to deal with so much this semester: Ginny, Vidal, the Golden Trio's distrust, being ostracized by the entire school, homesickness, finding the air, and Andres had always been there for him, had always there to cheer him up, make him laugh, or simply listen to him. Gohan had been extremely thankful for this. And now for some reason Andres wouldn't let him return the favor, as if he were above it, as if he didn't need anyone's help. It made the Saiyan in Gohan feel weak. This human in front of him didn't need what he needed. Andres shot him a dark look. I'm being dramatic. Okay then, you prick, yes, something is wrong. Good. Now why didn't you just come out and say it in the first place, instead of being so fucking pig-headed about it? Gohan shot back. Don't you understand how people work, Gohan? Sometimes people need time to themselves without the intrusion of others. Sometimes people don't want to discuss their problems. It doesn't mean they're never going to, they're just not ready for it. Oh wait, now it all makes sense. You have no idea how people work because you've been stuck out in the middle of nowhere your whole fucking life. Not everyone is like you. Not everyone goes crying to their friends for every stupid problem that comes up in their life. Not everyone is a crybaby. Take that back, liar. Gohan's growl was feral, guttural. His pride was smoldering. A crybaby, that was something he could never accept being called. Luna looked at both of them helplessly, extremely worried, having never seen even a shred of true belligerence between the two in all the time she had known them. Gohan, Andres, please calm down. Fuck you, Gohan. I'm not taking that back now that you're being such a crybaby about it. Gohan's glare tightened at the word. Andres shot up from his seat. I'm leaving. His expression softened considerably when he noticed Luna's troubled eyes. He sighed. I'm sorry we put you through this, Luna. It was wrong of us to do so. I wish. Just get the fuck out of here, Paris. Gohan hissed. Andres was about to direct another obscenity toward him, but stopped. He gave the Saiyan one final glare and left without another word. Can you believe him? What a fucking prick. Gohan turned to Luna, only to see that she had stood up as well. He looked up at her, but she averted his gaze. Deep disappointment filled her eyes. What are you doing? I'm leaving, Luna plainly stated. But why? I don't want to be around you right now. This time, Luna's frank nature was too much for Gohan. It purged him of his rage and left feeling numb. Bird blood, the dueling club. Gohan groaned once he had awoken. He was reluctant to get out of bed. His body ached all over. He had overdone last night's self-inflicted battering and now was paying for giving into his rage, his need for relief from the vicious quarrel with Andres, having pushed him over the edge. He was thankful Saiyans healed quickly, otherwise he would have had to sport purple bruises all over his face for the rest of the week. That would have led to too many unwanted questions. The bruised Saiyan stayed in bed a bit longer, reflecting over the past night's events. Luna's departure had left him feeling numb, and that numbness had left him wishing for his rage to return. He had just wanted to feel something, anything, other than emptiness. So he and his mirror image, both in the SSJ2 transformation, had given each other a brutal beating. He realized the comfort he took in fighting was surprising, considering that only half a year ago he had given up fighting, but he couldn't help it. The sense of invulnerability and the raw exhilaration of the SSJ2 transformation made fighting an incomparable pleasure. It was something he couldn't give up, not because he needed to become more powerful to protect the planet, but because it felt so good to feel his unfathomable power rush through his body and out into the world. The more power he attained, the more unstoppable he felt. He knew that being consumed by an obsession with power was dangerous, but he now realized how difficult it was to experience its seductive touch and not crave more. He arose, settled his gaze on the bed to his left, and scowled. Andres was still asleep. Gohan wanted to leave the room as soon as possible, looking to avoid having to come in contact with an awake Andres first thing in the morning. After having completed his morning routine, he left the dormitory, heading toward the Great Hall for breakfast, his stomach roaring. No matter how foul his mood, he was always hungry. Once there, he scanned the area for Luna. He had to explain. He couldn't stand her being upset with him. They would usually wake up around the same time, both of them morning people. If she'd arrive before him, she'd be eating breakfast at the Slytherin table, waiting for Gohan, and Andres, that is, if Andres happened to wake up early that day. He'd often ignore Gohan's attempts to wake him up for breakfast, preferring to skip breakfast and cut his beauty sleep short. The Slytherins had never bothered Luna, knowing that they'd have to face the wrath of Gohan if they did. She wasn't there this time, but before disappointment set in, he noticed her at the Ravenclaw table. She definitely was still upset with him. At least he had a chance to explain. He walked toward her. She was chewing a bite of her toast absently, seemingly even less present than she typically appeared to be. Luna. Gohan said, his voice soft. Luna gazed up at him with a curious look on her face. Yes. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. She studied his eyes. Are you really? She asked, doubtful. Yes, of course I am. Are you going to apologize to Andres? Go-hin balled his hand into a fist at the thought of apologizing to Andres. Why should I apologize to him? The whole thing is his fault. I was thinking the altercation over last night when I got back to my room, wondering why you had acted so insensitively, Luna calmly began, as if she hadn't heard him. You're the kindest boy I've ever met, so I thought you seemed out of character. I reached 3 possible conclusions. First, I don't know you well enough, and you actually aren't as kind as I thought you were. Second, you are as kind as I thought you were, but you made a mistake just like you did with Ginny. Third, the Raxperts invaded your brain again, but since they are aware of how easily I rid you of them last time, there are many more of them this time. Honestly, I hope it's the second or third option. Then, I won't have to be disappointed in you. Luna began to search her bag. Now let's see, they should be here somewhere. I hope the Nargles didn't take them again. Go-hin studied her cautiously. Luna was once again startling him. Yes, this very oddness was endearing to him, but a remarkable ability to remain so Luna-esque even during the most serious of situations was also unnerving. Last night was the first time he had seen Luna break out of her dreaminess and react in a way suiting a normal person. How about we just settle on a fourth option? Andres started it, so the way I acted was not necessarily wrong, but perhaps just a tad rude. No, you started it and what you did was wrong, Luna serenely said as she kept on searching her bag. There you are. Luna took out a large pair of bizarre colorful spectacles. She examined them meticulously, making sure everything was in order. She knew just how mischievous Nargles could be, so she couldn't take any chances. Once satisfied with their condition, she put them on and turned toward Go-hin with a faint smile, a good portion of her face covered by the spectacles. Go-hin's mouth gaped open. Seems they've sensed the presence of my trusty specter specs, hence your worried wonder. I'll fix you right up, Go-hin. There Luna, what are you doing? If they were in your head last night, they should still be there. Believe me, Raxperts love the smell of brain, especially one as big as yours. With remarkable aplomb, she put her wand next to his ear, chanted Lumos, and proceeded to look deep into his ear canal with her specter specs. There they are. Oh, never mind. Just some earwax. You really should clean your ears out more. Makes it easier to get rid of Raxperts, although I guess it also makes it easier for them to get in there. Actually, stop cleaning your ears. After the Saiyan's shock had worn off, he realized that this wasn't some wacky daydream. Luna was actually inspecting his ear canal, with a scrupulousness befitting a Ravenclaw, convinced that a bunch of invisible creatures were making his brain fuzzy. To Go-hin's embarrassment, sniggers began to fill the Great Hall, as an increasing number of students became aware of the scene. This is too much, even for Luna. No side of them. They must be on the other side. Go-hin hushed a groan as Luna moved over to his right-hand side and began inspecting the other ear. Several more uncomfortable moments later, Luna let out an unhappy sigh. There aren't any Raxperts. You were in complete control of yourself, she said, a tinge of gloom in her voice. Luna had hurt him to see Luna sad. He had to apologize to her. I'm sorry for fighting with him in front of you. That was wrong of me to do and I made a mistake. She turned her eyes away from him. You fighting with Andres in front of me is not the issue. It distresses me that you can't figure out what you did wrong and why you were wrong, but I'll let you figure out those things on your own. Until you apologize to Andres, your apology to me means nothing. Go-hin fought off that numbness, that coldness Luna had a talent for inflicting on him. He didn't know what to say. He was too angry with Andres to think of what he himself had done wrong, and he couldn't bring himself to apologize. Last night Andres had made Go-hin feel like a nuisance to him. The Go-hin, Andres had told him that he was burdening him with all his problems and that he resented him for it. This hurt. Go-hin didn't want to burden his friends with his problems. He didn't want to be needy. Moreover, he felt Luna was being harsh. He wasn't sure why Luna was so let down by him. He would think that Luna of all people, being as accepting and understanding as she was, would have looked to show him the error of his ways, rather than sulk and try to ignore him. Fine. I guess it'll be a long time before it means anything, he said tonelessly. A flicker of pain flashed through Luna's eyes, making Go-hin wish she had just agreed to apologize to Andres. He wanted to say something to soothe her, but he knew it'd just be insubstantial and unsubstantiated. He left to the Slytherin table and sat down. His food appeared and he was about to dig in only to discover that he was no longer hungry. In fact, he felt a bit nauseated at the thought of eating. He pushed his plate away and sighed. He returned his gaze to the Ravenclaw table. To his dismay, Luna had left. BBZHP. Snow fell for the first time since the school year had begun. Snow seldom fell within the immediate vicinity of his home, so it was a rare experience that Go-hin took great pleasure in, even as upset as he currently was. He leaned back in the wooden chair, his eyes pointed toward the white sky, as he relaxed alone in the courtyard, other students having judged it too cold to be anywhere but indoors. Herbology and transfiguration with the Hufflepuffs had gone well enough. He had stayed away from Andres and Andres had stayed away from him, so it hadn't been all that difficult to remain relaxed. Admittedly, it had been a lot more boring without him to talk to. Gohan was thankful he didn't have a class with the Ravenclaws today. He didn't think he could face Luna more than once. Dust flying at 330 and astronomy at midnight, all with the Gryffindors. Wonder if they'll cancel flying because of the snow. I doubted. Several minutes passed, Gohan simply enjoying his time alone. He sensed someone approaching and groaned. Not her. Without turning his eyes from the sky to look at her, he said, "What is it, Satan? I'm not in the mood for your bullshit." Just as charming as the last time we spoke. Was that the time when I called you a stupid bitch for accidentally burning my history of magic paper, and when I returned the favor, you screamed so many obscenities at me, you would have put the most foul-mouthed sailor to shame? Yeah. Gohan smirked. Good times. Videl couldn't help but smirk as well. So, what do you want? Try not to waste my time more than you have to. I'll try. She put on her hood. More snow had begun falling. First, who is your sensei? Gohan finally looked at her. He raised an amused eyebrow. Do you really expect me to answer that? What am I, your prisoner of war? Videl frowned. He wasn't going to give her an answer. Really, she had come here with only a faint hope he would, but she might as well try. I will find out, son. I'm just giving you the option to tell me yourself. I'll make you work for it, Gohan replied nonchalantly. Have it your way. Second, I want to know how long you've been training and what your training consisted of. I just don't understand how you can be so strong and skilled. I've been trained by some of the world's best, although not the world's best because my father refuses to train me. Videl scowled. Her father just wouldn't accept her being a martial artist. Yet you beat me like I was nothing. Gohan regarded her, a hint of contemplation in his eyes. That's it, Videl, massage that big fat ego of his. And I could never hope to catch a bludger the way you did. Moments later, Gohan shrugged. When I was 4 my sensei left me in the wilderness to fend for myself for 6 months. Videl looked at Gohan as if he had lost his mind. There's just no way. You're lying, son. I'm dead serious. Videl could tell from his face that he was telling the truth. She didn't know what to feel. That's insane. What kind of sensei does that to a 4-year-old? The good one. Gohan replied impassively. It worked. It made me good enough that you, Videl Satan, daughter of Hercule, had to admit that you're nothing compared to me. Videl gritted her teeth. Third. No more questions. I'm tired of you wasting my time. Gohan got up from his seat and turned his back to Videl. Farewell, Satan. BBZHP. During dinner. Why do you always do that? Do what? Scare away every cute boy that tries to talk to me. Arasa gazed longingly at the retreating figure of Dean Thomas. Sharpener scoffed. It's not my fault that dweebs can't handle my intensity. Arasa rolled her eyes. How's your intensity helping with the girls? Like I care what a dumb girl thinks. If they can't handle me, that's not my problem. I know they'll come around when I begin to care. We're only 11, Arasa. True. She sighed dreamily. I wish I were older. I can't wait to go on dates and get flowers and chocolates and tons of kisses and… You need to learn to shut up or else you won't be getting any of that. Sharpener commented dryly. Arasa looked ready to explode. I can't stand you. I can't believe I talked to a jerk like you. I'm going to… She ceased her tirade at the sound of someone clearing her throat. She turned around and met a pair of blue eyes. Oh, hey Videl. Sorry to interrupt your fun, but I need to ask Sharpener something. What's up? Has I never done anything suspicious? Even the littlest thing you can think of would be helpful. You sleep in the same room as him. You must have noticed something. Sharpener cocked his head to the side, struggling to think of something. Nope, nothing I can think of, he deadpanned. Are you sure? Yeah, sorry Del. Don't call me that. Videl took a deep breath, calming herself. Okay, let's go through this together. What does he do when you're around him? Videl, he really does nothing out of the ordinary. There's no need to go over this. At her glare, he lifted his hands in defense. Okay. He wakes up, brushes his teeth, leaves the dorm for breakfast. That's the morning. When he comes back from dinner, that's the next time I see him outside of class. He hangs out with his friend, Andres, and that weird girl Luna Lavabid or whatever her name is all night, and then he goes to bed. That's it. He doesn't study. Now that you mention it, I've never seen him study. Wow, how can he be such a smarty without studying? Arasa asked, amazed. He has to study, Videl argued. She hated admitting how smart and talented son was. He probably does it before dinner. Anyway, what does he talk about with his friends? I don't really pay attention. Just stupid things, nothing serious. Come on, Videl, let's talk about something else. Biddle nodded absent-mindedly and bit her lip in frustration. I know you're hiding something, son. You've just been extra careful. But I'll be patient. You're bound to slip up one day. BBZHP. Luna walked into a hall of roaring chatter. It was so loud it almost overwhelmed her. Dinner was underway and everyone was conversing merrily with their friends. Luna, Gohan, and Andres had been among them only 2 days ago, but now it seemed it'd be a long time before they'd be a part of this again. Thoughts of her talk with Gohan that morning re-emerged in her mind. She had been feeling okay before her encounter with him. Of course, witnessing her best friend's spiteful argument had upset her, but she had been expecting them to forgive each other fairly soon. Gohan's words at breakfast had made her realize there was a good chance this wouldn't be the case, which made her deeply upset. She calmed her mind. She had to accomplish what she had set out to do. She needed to find Andres. Her concern was with how he felt after having broken up with Joe and having fought so viciously with his best friend, not with her own feelings. Admittedly, by talking to Andres, she also hoped to allay her own guilt as it was her fault Andres and Joe had broken up. Her eyes swept over the Great Hall. Unfortunately, he wasn't at dinner. Gohan was, but he was not her concern. She left, heading toward the Slytherin common room. She was well acquainted with it, having visited it often with Gohan and Andres. It had a dark, cold elegance about it that Luna found enchanting, almost comforting. She had spent a great portion of her semester there, doing anything from playing chess with her 2 best friends or studying for an exam all by her lonesome. At first, the Slytherins had shot her nasty looks whenever she was there without Gohan or Andres. Such looks died down the more time she spent there, as she had expected. After all, the more people saw you, the more they viewed you as one of their own. As one would expect from how well acquainted she was with the common room, she knew exactly where the entrance was and the password required. Pure blood. Luna judged it an irresponsible and mean-spirited password, since according to Andres, there were a noteworthy number of Slytherins who were less than pure blood, Gohan being one of them. She arrived at the entrance and said the password to enter. She had begun to make her way to Andres' dormitory when a cold, snide voice stopped her. Look who it is, the nutter, Looney Lovegood. She gave him a glance. Draco was the one Slytherin who would still mock her, still call her names. She had never told Gohan because he had already done enough by putting a stop to everyone else's name-calling and insults. She could handle Draco. Greetings. She proceeded to walk to Andre's dorm, but Draco was not finished with her yet. At the sound of his voice, she turned around to look at him. No matter who it was, she couldn't ignore the person. That would just be rude. Draco's lips curled with scorn. You know, Looney, it's funny how things work out. At first I resented you being here, believing that you were doing nothing more than bringing shame to this honorable house with your presence. That is, until I realized your true purpose here to be our own little buffoon, just like in the medieval courts. You don't say. I've never really pictured myself in such a role during those times. I've always pictured myself as a great seer sought after by kings across the medieval world for advice and visions into the future. What do you see yourself as? It doesn't matter. Draco barked. Her dreamy response irritated him. He had been trying to upset her for months, but he never succeeded. I've wondered why you're always in such an unpleasant mood, Draco. Maybe some pudding would cheer you up. It always does the trick for me. Give it a try. Draco growled and turned back to whatever it was he had been working on. Luna shrugged, deciding that was the extent of Draco's reply, and resumed her short walk to Andre's dorm. Once there, she knocked. Come in. She opened the door and stepped in. Hi Andres. Oh, hey. I'm happy to see you Luna. Andres seemed okay. He was sitting in his bed reading a book, the title of it translating to A Forgotten World. Luna knew some Spanish. Her mother, when she had been alive, had taught her several different languages in adequate depth. Luna walked over to his bed, sat down on it, and gave him a big hug. I've missed you. I haven't seen you all day. I've missed you too. Luna studied her friend for a few seconds. His eyes revealed his troubles. Do you want to talk about what happened? Andres let out a deep sigh. Yeah, I do. Thanks for being here, Luna. BBZHP. Christmas break was just around the corner. Accordingly, students regained their lost spirit and jovialness, having had them worn and tested by the drudgery of the semester. For Gohan, Christmas break represented more relief than it did joy. Yes, he missed his friends and family, and he would be happy to see them. But his semester, despite having started so well, was concluding dismally, and he desperately wanted it to end. He had been lonely ever since his altercation with Andres. Andres and Gohan didn't communicate beyond what was absolutely necessary. The situation with Luna wasn't much better. Harry, Ron, and Hermione acted aloof, guarded around him, making any meaningful and enjoyable communication with them impossible. Vegeta was also no help, since he wasn't social. The only reason he'd ever show up on the MVB was to avoid the embarrassing spells the ball would cast on him. Gohin needed a break from all this. He needed time to think things over, relax, and come back to Hogwarts with a clear head. Last week, however, Gohin had been granted a respite from his loneliness. He and Luna would be working together to find the Chamber of Secrets, Luna having come to him to offer her assistance, although having also emphasized that this would be strictly professional business and that she still awaited his apology to Andres. Gohin hadn't been able to do anything but smile and tell her how much he missed her. "So, Luna, how's the search going?" Gohin asked as he looped around the library table piled with books Luna had been checking out and sat in the chair next to her. Luna's head, previously plunged in a big green book, rose at the sound of his voice. She regarded him with a particular detached expression distinctly, unlike her usual dreamy one that Gohin had become accustomed to seeing during the past week. "It has gone well. I have a few candidates for the monster." She grabbed her notebook and flipped to the desired page. Numerous names were scribbled on the fine aged paper, only a few of them circled. The possible candidates so far are the Amgubular/Coulter, the Sarian Rapsilian, Wittimerausbesti, the Amphiptyr, and the Amphisbena. I know the last two are serpents from European mythology, and the Wittimerausbesti is a mythological creature Lockhart searched for in one of his books, and as well, a wee timorous, but what are your sources for the first two? The Quibbler. Gohin grimaced. I should have known better than to give Luna the task of figuring out what sort of creature this monster is. As of right now, the Amgubular/Coulter is in my mind the best candidate. It is said to. You have to keep searching, Luna, Gohin interrupted her. He was restless and not in the mood to entertain ideas on imaginary creatures. Be serious about this, now is not the time to amuse yourself with delusions and fantasy. We don't have time for that. Luna looked hurt. Why would you say that? Gohin cursed under his breath. Would I have to say something so mean and stupid? Never mind, Luna. I'm just tired today, that's all. I'm sorry. No, you're right. It's best to start out with creatures that have been proven to exist. Luna sighed. I apologize. I didn't mean to waste your time. Hey, don't be sorry. I can see you've been working hard to figure this out and that's all that matters, Gohin warmly said as he put his hand on top of Luna's. Besides, you're not wasting my time. I'm happy to hang out with you again. Luna looked down at his hand with a questioning smile. Remember, Gohin, this is supposed to be professional. We're not hanging out, she said quietly. Can we just drop it? Gohin prodded. I know you miss me, I know you want to hang out with me again. I want to too. Luna stiffened, then removed Gohin's hand from hers and replied, I can't just drop it. If anything, you've made me even more disappointed than I was a month ago. The fact that you still haven't apologized to Andres, even after he apologized to you, well, I don't know what to say anymore. Gohin kept silent. He didn't want to say anything that he'd regret, his anger toward Andres having cooled off a good amount, but his pride having made it too hard to give him an apology. He realized how much this mirrored his confrontation with Satan months ago. She had apologized to him, but he hadn't been able to apologize to her despite Ginny having told him to do so. It took breaking up with Ginny to make him apologize. What would it take this time? Are you going to say something? Just be patient with me. I know what I'm doing is wrong, I just can't right now. That was the best answer Gohin had given her since the altercation, and so Luna accepted it for now. Okay, I will. Also, I would like to know if you plan on joining the dueling club. I'm going to, and you should too. I think it's critical to our professional investigation. Gohin smirked. I never knew you were one for posturing, Luna. You already know what I think about this whole dueling club thing without asking me about it. It'd be a waste of my time, so don't tell me you think it's critical to our investigation. Luna maintained her composure. Fine, I would like company while I'm there, and neither Andres nor Elizabeth wanted to go, so that leaves you. Gohin felt a twinge of jealousy, and his amusement died down. Okay. I'll accompany you to the dueling club. He frowned a bit at what she had just said and then resumed their discussion on the Chamber of Secrets. BBZHP. The following night, Gohin and Luna would be rushing toward the Great Hall, a bit late for the first dueling club meeting, after having lost track of time in the library, their search for the monster's identity having gone swimmingly. The house tables were gone and in their place was a golden stage lit by 1,000 floating candles. A horde of students, eager to begin dueling practice, listened attentively to Professor Lockhart. Gohin had no idea why Dumbledore had allowed Lockhart of all people to lead the dueling club. The old man wasn't stupid, so he probably just didn't give a damn. At least Snape was assisting. If it had just been Lockhart, Luna would have never gotten Gohin to attend. Well, unless she agreed to drop the I'm so incredibly disappointed in you and this isn't us hanging out as friends charade. There you are, Mr. Sun. I was beginning to lose hope, Lockhart exclaimed over the crowd. Gohin and Luna sliced their way through the throng of students, the students making way for their mighty peer and a mocking smile on the Saiyan's face. You worried yourself sick for nothing, my honorable professor. How could I pass up the opportunity to learn from the very best? Gohan replied, his every word cloying. He didn't have a clue why he would always humor Lockhart so profusely. All Lockhart would do was suck up his sarcastic disdain like a giant squid and transmute it into fanatic adoration. Perhaps this was the only way Gohan could keep himself from incinerating Lockhart with a Kai blast. Yes, perhaps it was best to add in some humor, lest his abhorrence of Lockhart take too murderous of a note. Snape gave Gohan what appeared to be an amused look, his altogether dour countenance making it difficult to discern positive emotions on his face. Lockhart was bubbling over with delight. He took Gohan aside as Snape took over and began the lesson. Gohan gave Luna a pained glance over his shoulder as he was led away by Lockhart. Luna returned a dreamy smile as if unaware of his distress and then proceeded to join the rest of the students for the opening lesson. Lockhart led him just outside the Great Hall. Finally, some peace and solitude. Lockhart sighed in relief. You see, Mr. Sun, I'm a very private, modest man. Crowds, well, they can be so tiresome, since I'm not one for pretense or show. This unassuming nature of mine has always made my fame bittersweet, but it has also kept me grounded. Sometimes, I think to myself that I'd be better off living somewhere deep in the forest, hundreds of kilometers away from civilization, all by my lonesome, so that I would no longer have to deal with the trials and tribulations of being a celebrity of such great stature. At Gohan's disgusted disbelief, Lockhart returned an acknowledging smile. There's no need to worry, Mr. Sun. They're only thoughts, your beloved professor will remain. The Saiyan quickly retained his composure. Could he do it? Professor, I think it's a marvelous idea, he encouraged, almost desperately. You think so? Yes. After all you've done for the wizarding world, you deserve it. I do, don't I? A faintly excited grin began to grow on his handsome face. The peace, the adventure, the freedom breaking the chains of society, becoming one with nature just as my ancestors were thousands upon thousands of years ago. What more could a man as great as you need? Gohan's excitement grew alongside Lockhart's. Lockhart shook his head, to Gohan's immense disappointment. If only I could, Mr. Sun, if only I weren't as munificent as I am. Alas, I am cursed to this fate. I cannot leave this world behind. The people need me too much. Gohan began to feel his Kai surge. This fool, this vain, delusional imbecile enraged him. If only he were a bit less of a narcissist then he would be tolerable, perhaps even funny. He calmed himself. It was a waste of his energy to be angry with Lockhart. I understand. So, Professor, what do you need? I don't need a thing, Mr. Sun, but I do want to offer you a valuable opportunity, an opportunity that could be immensely beneficial to the rest of your life. He paused to note Gohan's expression. He had thought his words would have piqued his curiosity. Instead his student seemed rather bored. No, that was impossible. He was probably barely able to contain his excitement, but he was doing so out of respect for him, his professor. I would like to offer you, my favorite student, the chance to join me at the Joint Galleons for Endangered Species charity event and Bright Futures Gala. The gala takes place every 4 years during the Christmas season, and this year, will be taking place on New Year's Eve. Gohan repressed a scowl, only a few weeks ago he had overheard Lockhart tell Satan she was his favorite student. He wasn't surprised, though. He wouldn't put it past Lockhart to actually believe wholeheartedly Gohan was his favorite student and completely forget he had told Satan that she was a week ago. This was the man who had forgotten that Gohan was the one who had so crudely embarrassed him on the first day of Dada. Instead, months later, Lockhart would mention offhandedly during class how much of a smartass Alex was for having insulted him on the first day, despite the fact that Alex was the most reserved and quietest boy in the class. Back in the dorm, Andres would later tease Alex about Lockhart's comment by constantly remarking on how much of a smartass Alex was. These events will take place in the sumptuous Malfoy Manor, Lucius Malfoy having been so kind as to provide his estate for the occasion. Numerous important and renowned witches and wizards from all over the European wizarding world will attend, yours truly included of course. We have all been encouraged to nominate our pupils or protégés. I've nominated you, Mr. Sun, and so you may attend. This is an invaluable experience, one that can begin to lay the foundation of an exceptionally successful life after Hogwarts. Granted, you are a bit young, even for an event catering toward underage witches and wizards, but you are a precocious child. Thus, I have no doubt you will carry yourself with grace and make the most of this experience. So, what do you say? As much as the idea of spending a night with Lockhart disgusted him, he couldn't pass up an opportunity to network with influential people. He'd also get a taste of the world of the powerful and the elite. He wanted to know if the life suited him, if it didn't, he'd choose a path of anonymity. Professor, I accept your invitation. Wonderful. I'll make sure to give you the rest of the details after our final Dada class. Now that that's done, let us get back to the dueling club. Back in the Great Hall, Gohan looked for Luna. She was a small girl, so finding her in a crowd of young and older students alike proved difficult. He walked around a bit aimlessly as Snape said his last words. He spotted Luna toward the front of the crowd. It didn't seem like she was listening at all. She was playing with an early Christmas gift her uncle had given her, a Navajo fetish necklace made of turquoise and serpentine stones. Luna had gotten the gift during breakfast and had worn it the entire day, to the amusement of the entire school. It seemed out of place on the English girl dressed in robes, yet oddly fitting. She was Luna Lovegood, after all. Luna had explained to him that her uncle, her father's brother and his wife were now living in North America, having permanently relocated in order to live among and learn from the Native American magical community. She had sent them a letter a few months ago detailing the unfortunate happenings at Hogwarts. The necklace was meant to ward off malevolent spirits and dark creatures. Gohan was uncertain if it worked, but he decided there was no reason to doubt another culture's magic. So, Luna, did I miss anything important or were you too fascinated by your necklace to accurately answer my question? No, and perhaps. Then how can you be so certain about my first question? Just take my word for it, she beamed at him. Luna seemed to be in a really good mood for some reason. Gohan didn't mind, since she had been acting so detached around him lately. Sure, he smiled back. Gohan-san. You're up, Snape called. What? Gohan turned back to Luna. Who am I up against? He asked her. Brian Kennedy, she said, a wicked glint in her eyes. She had a lot of experience with Kennedy, as she had joined Gohan and Andres in their pranks on him and his minions. Despite having been on the wrong end of pranks for so long, she had developed a dark taste for them. Slytherins were such a bad influence on her young, impressionable mind. Maybe it had been a mistake to befriend Gohan and Andres. No, that was ludicrous. She was having a blast. Gohan's lips curled into a sinister smile. It's time to cement his title as President Pisstain. Luna snickered. Go get him for me. It'll be an honor, Ms. Lovegood. Gohan bowed to her, yielding confused looks from the students around them, but great amusement from Luna. You too, Ryan Kennedy. Snape called. Lockhart leaned into Snape. Would you pair those two up? Mr. Kennedy has no chance. Frankly, I'm worried for him. Mr. Sun can be quite vicious. I let choose his opponent because he volunteered to go first. And he chose Mr. Sun. What a brave child. You mean foolish, Lockhart, Snape muttered. Gohan couldn't contain his excitement, a nefarious smirk on his face as he strode confidently up to the stage. Oh, maybe I can use Wingardium Leviosa to lift off all his clothes. No, Gohan, think. This is too good of an opportunity. I need to make the most of it. After a few more moments of thought, Gohan concocted a delightful plan. Marvelous. He wished Andres were here to see this, even if they were on bad terms. As he walked up the stage, he turned his head slightly and gave Luna a wink, attempting to signify his great idea. He thought he caught a faint red creeping up on her face. Was that a blush? No, it couldn't be. Why would Luna of all people be blushing? He couldn't even imagine her liking boys, well at least not yet. She was too unusual. There was a time not too long ago when she didn't even know the meaning of a wink. Gohan smiled at the memory. BBZHP. Flashback. Andres whistled. Whoa, check out that chick, Gohan. Andres pointed at a 4th or 5th year Hufflepuff. Not bad. That's the understatement of the century. Man oh man, look at those long legs go, act cool, she's walking straight toward us. The tall blonde girl was indeed walking toward them, seemingly looking for someone in the courtyard. Once she was close enough and about to ask the trio a question, Andres cut in and said, "Sup babe," and proceeded to wink. She glared at him. Ugh, what's with it, you Spanish creeps always hitting on me? She hissed and then kept on walking. Andres looked back at her as she walked away, dumbfounded. That had never happened to him before. Gohan whispered an ouch as he shared looks with Luna. A few moments later Andres recollected himself and shot up from the bench, arm angrily flailing in the air. Don't flatter yourself. I'd never want to have anything to do with you, you bint. Without stopping or turning back, the girl made a V sign with her hand. Andres wasn't sure what that meant, so he took a stab at it. Fuck you too. By the way, your period's leaking. The girl stopped momentarily and glanced down. Ha. Made you look. She shot him a menacing glower over her shoulder and then stomped away. Good one, Gohan praised. Thanks. It was nothing. So, Luna, do you know what that sign is equivalent to in America? I'm more familiar with American slang and gestures than British ones, since I had a badass American guy as my English tutor first. He taught me all that good stuff. Second was some boring British girl. It's equivalent to this. Luna raised her hand and flipped her middle finger at them. The boys gasped. Luna. Gohan exclaimed. You just flipped us off. Andres said. Luna shrugged. It was just for demonstrative purposes. A moment later, she continued, "You two deserved it anyway, after all the bad things I've seen you both do," she said, attempting to mock them both, although not particularly adeptly considering her naturally dreamy voice and inexperience. The boys regarded her proudly, pleased with her progress. "Who do you reckon she got the attitude from?" Andres asked Gohan. "Probably you, you're quite the wanker." Andres scoffed. "Please, the biggest wanker in this group is you, Gohan." "Yeah right you wanker." "Oh wow, great comeback. Who taught you that one? Your mum?" "No, my mum is too classy for that, unlike yours." Andres rolled his eyes at Gohan. "Boys, settle down, there's no need to bring mums into this. Let's just agree that you're both wankers and that's all there is to it," Luna said sweetly, shocking the boys with her boldness. Gohan eyed Andres. "I don't like where this is headed." "Neither do I." After they recovered, Gohan asked Andres, "Has that ever happened to you before?" "No. Usually older girls just laugh or say something along the lines of "oh how cute." I'm not sure what went wrong this time. She's just uptight. Forget her." "Yeah, you're right, thanks man." Luna joined in. "Or maybe it was that eye infection of yours that bothered her." "Eye infection? What eye infection?" Luna tilted her head. "The one that's making you blink so much throughout the day." Gohan laughed into his hands once he realized what she was talking about, while Andres looked aghast. Luna scooted closer to Andres and shoved her face close to his, studying his left eye shamelessly. Andres recoiled slightly at her sudden movements. "Admittedly, I don't see anything wrong with your eye, but she may have a more discerning eye than I do." Andres grabbed Luna's shoulders and gently pushed her away. "Luna, I need some personal space." "Personal space? What's that?" Andres rubbed his temples. "There are times when you leave me lost for words." Gohan decided to stop his laughing and instead help his friend. "That blinking he does is actually called winking. It's intentional. He does it to flirt with girls and express his interest. A lot of girls seem to find it attractive, at least when Andres does it. Probably because he's so confident and audacious about it." "It's attractive?" Luna repeated, perplexed. "Yeah, of course." Andres huffed. "Are you questioning my winking ability?" "No, just winking in general. Honestly, I just don't see it." Andres smirked. "Just watch and be seduced by the master." Luna nodded. "Okay, I'm ready to be seduced." "Odd, I love you Luna," Gohan drawled. His whole expression colored with verve and poise, Andres gave Luna one of his best winks and followed it up with a seductive smile. Luna was unaffected. "As I said, I don't see it." Andres crossed his arms and turned his head away. "Something's wrong with you. No one could have resisted that, not even that bitchy blonde girl. You've outdone yourself, Andres. 2 failures in one day. Guess the master is losing his touch," Gohan teased. "That'll be the day," Andres scoffed. "Let's see you do better, Gohan." Gohan seemed hesitant. "Go on, give Luna a little wink and smile. Don't wuss out." Gohan gathered his resolve. "A son never wusses out." "Attaboy. Drop her dead." Andres cheered. Luna looked the tiniest bit alarmed. "Don't take it that far." "It's an expression, Luna." Andres sighed. She really got on his nerves sometimes. Gohan and Luna faced each other. Gohan rolled up his sleeves and then did a few stretches and mental arithmetic to get the blood flowing. "There we go. Eye of the tiger, baby, eye of the tiger." "Okay, here goes nothing." He tried to wink, but it felt more like an eye flutter or an eye twitch than a smooth flirtatious wink. He could tell Luna was trying to hold back a laugh. This was quite disheartening, and so in the end he only managed an awkward smile. "Bravo. Bravo." Andres exclaimed as he furiously applauded. At Andres' derision, Luna finally burst out laughing. Gohan had never felt so humiliated in his life. Having Luna laugh at him really hurt. A few moments passed until Luna noticed Gohan's mortified expression. She looked at him with deep regret. "I'm sorry, Gohan, I'm really truly sorry." "Oh, Gohan can handle it. Don't worry about him," Andres assured. Gohan remained silent, eyes downcast. "Give it another try, Gohan." "I promise I won't laugh," Luna gently encouraged. Gohan sighed. "Alright." He tried again, but this time the wink felt natural, filling him with his usual confidence. He followed it up with a bright flirtatious smile. Luna smiled back, a bit shyly. "Now I see the appeal, I liked it. Much better than Andres." "You think so?" "I do." Andres gaped at her. "You've got to be kidding me. Sure he did some things right, but he was nowhere near as good as me. The technique, the spontaneity, the speed, there's so much he needs to work on." "Maybe it wasn't perfect, but it was Gohan's own take on it and I really liked it." She looked at Gohan sweetly and held his hand. "Gosh, thanks Luna," Gohan blushed. Andres cringed, disgusted. "Gross, get a room." BBZHP. Well, she did like his wink last time, maybe she did think he was cute. Wait, what? No, of course she didn't. Luna didn't think like that. She had just been nice that one time. Why did he care anyway? Now on the stage, he regarded Kennedy devilishly and remained silent. Your confidence is misplaced, Kennedy. You're almost as delusional as Lockhart is. BBZHP. Biddle shook her head at Kennedy's convinced smirk. How stupid can you get? Sharpener nodded. Kid's gonna get steamrolled. I never liked him anyway. BBZHP. Are you quivering in your little booties, son? Over what? You? Gohan snorted. Please, you're less than an insect to me. Kennedy shook with fury, grabbed his wand, and raised it to a dueling position. You'll pay for everything you've done to me, tenfold. He screamed shrilly, a vein throbbing near his temple. Gohan raised his wand to the appropriate position as well, choosing not to respond to the crybaby. Snape began the duel. Pinfudo. Kennedy cried out. Protego. Gohan blocked the spell. Not bad, Kennedy, he sneered. I'm surprised a pathetic little worm like you already knows how to cast a Confundus charm. Kennedy's pride was overflowing. There's more where that came from. Gohan frowned. Don't get cocky. Even if that spell had hit me, I still would have been 10 times smarter than you. He shot Kennedy an excited grin. Now enough talk, let's have some fun. The Saiyan whipped his wand up faster than the human eye could see. Wingardium Leviosa. Kennedy's robes and shirt floated for a second and then ripped right off of him, leaving him only in his pants. Tarantallegra. The shirtless Kennedy's legs began dancing uncontrollably. He did a graceful pivot and a slick moonwalk across the stage. Cantus. Kennedy began singing one of Michael Jackson's most popular works, while Gohan simultaneously cast another spell he had made up for his own amusement since he couldn't listen to Muggle music because Muggle electronics didn't work in Hogwarts. Billie Jean played loudly throughout the Great Hall. The laughter was overwhelming. Many students were clutching their sides in agony as Kennedy sang and danced. Luna was rolling around on the floor laughing, overjoyed with Gohan's work so far. Gohan-san, stop this immediately. Snape yelled. It didn't seem like he had heard him over the roar of laughter, music, and Kennedy's singing. Oh, lighten up, Severus. Lockhart chuckled as he swayed to the music. Mr. Kennedy is doing a delightful impression of the King of Pop and it's been too long since I last saw MJ perform. Ah, so like we are in our eminence, Lockhart mused. Snape simply scowled. He hated Muggle music. The crowd cheered and applauded, and those who knew the lyrics, mostly Muggle-born students although some half-bloods and purebloods knew the lyrics too, sang along. Gohan tried not to burst out laughing at the sight. He still had work to do. Thanks Krillin and Master Roshi for introducing me to Michael Jackson. I couldn't have done it without you guys. The Saiyan cut off the dancing legs jinx. Kennedy continued to sing uncontrollably, but he stayed in place. It was almost time. Gohan yelled, Levicorpus. Kennedy slowly began to lift up in the air, like an angel. Lockhart shook his head in amazement and applauded heartily. The choreography is astounding. Snape was more amazed by Gohan's masterful Levicorpus spell. This boy was simply too powerful. Kennedy kept on slowly rising in the air. Ouch. Only to bump his head on the ceiling. Sorry about that one, Kennedy. It was just an accident, honest. Gohan shouted. Now, time to make him wet his pants. Gohan leered up at Kennedy. He flung Kennedy around like a ragdoll in the air. Faster and faster and faster, circling the Great Hall, his unabated singing warped by his speed. The crowd watched the scene in fascination, some students still laughing wildly. This had gone too far. Snape hadn't even known it was possible to fling someone in the air like Sun was doing with a Levicorpus spell. That's enough. Snape steadied his aim and yelled Libericorpus. The spell hit Kennedy, but to Snape's astonishment, it had no effect. How can this be? Snape regarded Gohan with a hint of fear. He had to tell the headmaster about this. No one would have been able to stop the Saiyan. Fortunately, it wouldn't be much longer before he was satisfied. He cut off his spells and returned Kennedy to the ground. He casted an anti-nausea spell so Kennedy wouldn't puke. Gohan languidly raised his wand again, just to frighten Kennedy. No more, no more. Kennedy begged. Gohan snickered. All right. I've accomplished my mission anyway. He pointed at the American's pants with his wand. Kennedy looked down and flushed, deeply embarrassed. He had wet himself. Gohan turned his back and bellowed, see you later, President Pistain. Laughter resonated in the Great Hall again. I hate you. Kennedy screamed at Gohan. Snape led a furious Kennedy off the stage, and Lockhart resumed his place on it. My oh my, what a performance. Not only are you a talented wizard, Mr. Sun, you are also quite the choreographer. Give him a round of applause, everyone. The entire hall burst out in applause. As Gohan made his way to Luna, he received many pats on the back, words of praise, and applause. Thanks, it was nothing you guys. Gohan said, as he thanked everyone. Fred and George grinned at him as he walked by. A living legend, they said together. He found Luna. She was beaming at him like he had never seen her beam before. You were wonderful. She jumped into his arms. Thanks, Luna. I'm glad you enjoyed it. More than enjoyed it, I've never laughed so hard in my life. She exclaimed, her joy shining brightly. All Gohan could do was smile and hug her a little bit tighter. He loved seeing Luna happy. BBZHP. A few days later. The halls were cold and empty. The semester's classes had just ended and most students were packing their stuff, getting ready to go back home for Christmas break the next day. Vidal was in no mood to do the same. Besides, the Japanese students, which were just her, Arasa, Sharpener, Gohan, and some girl in Ravenclaw, were leaving later than everyone else. Hagrid was going to take them to some Japanese train station by Porky, several hours after everyone else left on the Hogwarts Express. She decided she might as well pack tomorrow, since she'd have plenty of time. She was wandering the halls aimlessly, thinking about the rumors concerning Gohan's son and Harry Potter. The events on the night of the dueling club had sparked them, and now they were quickly gaining momentum. Vidal wasn't too sure about them, despite knowing that most who had ever spoken Parselting had been descendants of Salazar Slytherin. Harry speaking Parselting wasn't the issue for her, it was how he had goaded the snake to attack that Hufflepuff boy, Justin, at least that's what seemed to happen, like what Son had done to Malfoy months ago. But this was different. Justin had done nothing more than just be a muggle-born, Malfoy had been insulting Son and making fun of his friend, that Luna girl. She had only spoken to Harry Potter once. That was the time she had been trying to get a book from the restricted section. Although he had annoyed her that one time, he seemed like a nice guy and he was the boy who lived. Why would he petrify muggle-borns? If she recalled correctly, one of his best friends, Granger, was also a muggle-born. One set of rumors focused entirely on Harry. He spoke Parselting, he set the snake on Justin, and so he clearly was the heir of Slytherin. The other set of rumors took it a step further, going back to the bludger incident when Gohan had protected Harry from the bludger, and also back to when Gohan had spoken Parselting around the Slytherins. Supposedly, Harry or Gohan was the heir of Slytherin, and they were in on the entire scheme together. Most students chose to ignore this particular set of rumors as they had taken a great liking to Son. Believers felt this further vindicated their beliefs, saying that Son was creating a smokescreen, attempting to inveigle the students. If that were Son's plan, he had executed it flawlessly. Even Vidal had greatly enjoyed his little show with that annoying American, Kennedy. A scream jolted her from her thoughts. Attack. Attack. Another attack. No one is safe. Run away. It sounded like Peeves. This is my chance. She rushed to the scene. As she approached, she saw 4 figures there, 2 of them lying stiff on the ground. She walked closer and gasped. Harry Potter was standing over Justin and nearly headless Nick, both of them petrified. Professor McGonagall was talking to Harry, trying to work out what had happened. Professor, I just got here. I was just with Hagrid. He was telling me something about roosters being killed and he was going to tell Dumbledore about it. I believe you, Mr. Potter. But I have to confirm your alibi. Vidal raised a lone finger at Harry and whispered, it was you. Harry and McGonagall both turned their heads when they realized someone else was there. Harry saw the girl and grimaced. It was Hercule's daughter, Vidal. Vidal, this is not what it looks like, Harry assured. Vidal glared at him. Oh yeah, then tell me what happened here. She demanded. Enough. Professor McGonagall said. Go back to your dormitory, Ms. Satan. I will handle this. Vidal studied Harry for a moment and then left. You better watch out, Harry Potter. BBZHP. Several hours before. A wolf howled at the full moon. The moon looked dangerously low and heavy, as if at any moment it would come crashing down from the sky. Mist filtered the moonlight into speckles, mottling the dark surface of the earth with gleams of silver. Gohan took a deep breath of air so crisp, so cold, it scoured him of his lethargy. It was late, about 2 and they hadn't been able to sleep. Today was the last day of classes, the day before Christmas break, so he didn't care much about sleeping anyway. He needed to reflect on his semester. It had gone by so fast, it had been filled with so many ups and downs. All in all, it had been a good semester. Yes, he had ended it on bad terms with his best friend, but he knew they were going to make up next semester. They were too good of friends not to, and his anger with Andres was gone. All that was left was to apologize to his friend. That was something he found hard to do, though. He had always been forgiving, quick to ask for forgiveness, acknowledge his mistakes, up until the Cell Games. He had changed drastically since then. That was undeniable, obvious to him now that he had gone through a semester at Hogwarts. At times, he found himself wishing he could be the innocent carefree child he had once been. In those days, he only felt anger toward evil people hurting his friends. In those days, the only pride he had was pride in his mother and father, not in himself. In those days, he would never have humiliated someone the way he had done to Kennedy, no matter how despicable they were. In those days, there would have been no chance of him being sorted in Slytherin. It was not all bad, of course. He felt he and Andres were such great friends precisely because he was a different person from his old self. They enjoyed each other's company immensely, and Gohan had a feeling that Andres would have found the old Gohan boring. They wouldn't have been such great friends and possibly wouldn't have known each other, since Gohan would have definitely been sorted in a different house, either Gryffindor or Ravenclaw. The thought made Gohan sad. He was glad everything had turned out the way it had, even if it meant he wasn't as considerate or light-hearted as he had once been, simply because he and Andres had become best friends. I miss you, Andres. I really need to apologize. A few more hours passed. The moon slowly disappeared and the sun took its place. During this time, the Saiyan relaxed and dozed off for an hour or so, using his Kai to keep himself warm, melting the snow beneath him to reveal patches of grass. He got up once he felt the first rays of the sun and began his journey back to Hogwarts through the heaps of snow. The trees stood tall and bare against a wintry sky, groaning, their branches being whipped around by the cold dry wind. It was still quite dark, night not having fully lost its grip. The forest gave way to plains and hills and lakes. In the distance was the grand castle of Hogwarts. A youthful energy filled Gohan, and he began to run back to his second home. Everything was a blur until he snapped to a stop. He sensed someone familiar near the hen coop. Who would be out here this early? Hagrid. No, it definitely wasn't him. The Kai wasn't strong enough. Hagrid was pretty strong for an Earthling. He searched his memory, trying to remember where he had felt this Kai before. Usually this would have been easy, but this Kai, it felt different from how he remembered it, almost twisted. Ginny? What's she doing here? He quickened his stride to the coop. Ginny's small figure became clearer from the distance as he approached. She was hunched over doing something odd, something disturbing. A knife was raised in the air and a rooster was pressed down against the snow, held down by its throat. Gohan could have done something. The rooster didn't have to die. Gohan hated the mindless killing of life for sport, for amusement, for relief, and that's what he felt this was, that's what he saw in Ginny's dark face. But he didn't do a thing. A memory he had been suppressing for a long time now, flashed through his mind and left him stunned. Everything was so clear, so precise. He saw himself crying with his mom, shivering with anguish. He saw the beautiful green trees and bright sunshine mocking his grief. He saw the Sendai Mashikui dying on the ground. He saw his mechanical stride to the helpless bird and that vengeful flicker in his eyes. And the worst moment of that day. He saw it over and over again. He saw blood splash on the grass. He could have stopped it. He could have stopped this. But no. Blood splashed the snow red as Ginny's knife sank deep into the rooster's throat. The rooster gurgled blood along with a final cry of pain and suffering. Ginny raised the knife overhead and sunk it in again. And again. And again. The snow grew more crimson with each passing moment until Gohan couldn't take it anymore. No more. Gohan cried. He walked slowly toward Ginny, disbelief and pain in his eyes. No more, Ginny, he said, his voice a whisper. Ginny's eyes shot wide open, as if she had awoken from a trance. She dropped the knife and covered her mouth with her blood-soaked hands when the full magnitude of what she had done hit her, when she realized that Gohan had been a witness to this all along. Her entire body shivered uncontrollably. What have I done? What have I done? Gohan, please, I didn't mean to do this. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. She cried desperately and began to sob. Gohan wasn't sure what to do. What was wrong with Ginny? How could she kill an animal so brutally? She had seemed normal during the last month. His worry about her had diminished. He had even made some small talk with her a few times. She had always been polite, but he had had the feeling that she didn't want anything to do with him, so he just let her do her own thing. He had thought she had recovered, but clearly she hadn't. She clearly had been keeping something to herself for far too long. I can't let her keep this to herself anymore. I need to help her. Gohan kneeled down closer to her. I'm sorry, Gohan, I'm so sorry. This isn't me. Ginny, look at me. Ginny couldn't bear to look at him. She kept crying. He put a finger on her chin and gently raised her head toward him. Look at me. She did this time, and she didn't see the revulsion she had expected. Instead, she saw compassion and concern, she saw all the things that had made her like him so much in the first place. Gohan, he hugged her with all the power he had, and she deserved no less, he had ignored her for far too long. I'm sorry. SHH, it's okay. He felt the pain, the loneliness she had been holding in pour out. They remained like this for a long time, how long Gohan wasn't sure. Ginny's tears eventually dried up and they ended the hug. Thank you, Gohan. There's no need to thank me, Ginny. I should have been there for you all along. Gohin cast his eyes down to the ground, guilty. You needed me, but instead I got caught up in this whole Chamber of Secrets business and goofing off with my friends. No, don't blame yourself. All that matters is that you're here for me now. Ginny strained to smile at him. Gohin sighed and grabbed one of her blood-stained hands as he slowly led her away from the coop and into a peaceful part of the forest. They remained silent as they walked. He needed to figure out what exactly was wrong with her. He didn't want to push things like he had with Andres, but he wanted to know, so he tread carefully. He found a nice spot and used a spell to melt the snow and dry the grass underneath it. They both sat down. He noticed the blood all over both of them. Let me clean you up. He cleaned both their hands and robes with a spell. Do you want to talk about what's wrong? No. Are you sure? Ginny remained silent for a few moments. I want to, but I can't tell you. You can trust me, Ginny. I just can't. I'm too scared of what might happen. Ginny began to tremble again. Hey, don't worry. He grabbed both her hands and struck them. Nothing can hurt you while I'm with you, and I promise, I will always be there for you from now on. Really? She whispered, her eyes brightening up. Really, Ginny? BBZHP. After classes that day. So this it? Gohin inquired. Yes, Ginny answered nervously. The diary was unremarkable. It was a small thin book with a shabby black cover. How'd you come upon it again? I found it in my bag after my trip to Diagon Alley. I have no idea how it got in there. My parents didn't buy it, that's for sure. Gohin reached for the diary only to have Ginny's arm shoot out to stop him. It's okay, Ginny. You can trust me. She seemed overly protective of it, even for a diary. Sorry Gohin. Go ahead and open it. The Saiyan grabbed the book and inspected the cover. The date told him it was 50 years old. He opened it to the first page. TM Riddle. Gohin turned to Ginny. Is that the name of the guy in the diary? Ginny nodded. So he somehow managed to embed the memory of himself, perhaps even a piece of his soul, into his own book. Incredible. Gohin keenly flipped through the pages. They're all blank. The ink fades away. You write in it, then he writes back. Watch. Ginny grabbed the book and laid it on her desk. She pushed her other books aside, looking for her quill. Once she found it, she picked it up, dipped it in some ink, and wrote Hi Tom. Gohin's eyes widened when the diary replied. Hello Ginny. How was your last day of classes? Good. She hesitated for a moment but then scrawled, I hope you don't mind, but I brought a friend over to show him the diary. It took several moments for the diary to reply. Ginny gave Gohin an uneasy look. Oh no, I think I made him angry. He might go away. Just as she said those words, the diary replied, Ginny, we've discussed this before. You were not supposed to tell anyone about my diary. I'm sorry Tom. But he's a really good friend of mine and I trust him. I've told you about him before. It's Gohin, do you remember him? You should have said so. Why of course I remember Gohin-san, you've written so much about him. So, I finally get to meet the love of your life. Ginny blushed but seemed relieved that Tom wasn't angry with her. So, I'm the love of your life eh? Gohin winked at her, deepening Ginny's red blush. He mentally thanked Andres for all the winking pointers. May I? Gohin asked Ginny as he motioned for the quill. She handed it to him. Hello, Tom, it's Gohin-san. We meet at last, Gohin. It's a pleasure. The pleasure is all mine Tom. As charming and well-mannered as she said you were. Thank you. I'd like to know, how exactly did you store yourself in this diary? Now's not the time, but I can teach you some other time if you would like. Gohin hesitated for a few seconds. Every one of Tom's responses seemed to generate something ineffable. It felt like a mix of little bubbles of power, bursts of air, and flimsy spider webs. It felt like he was sensing something not Kai, but perhaps, magic. Was this what magic felt like? And if so, why was he just beginning to sense magic now? Was this book that magically rich and plentiful? Gohin began to feel lightheaded. He continued to write. Yes, that'd be great. So, were you a student at Hogwarts? Yes, 50 years have elapsed since I was student according to Ginny. I was a Slytherin, just as you are, correct? Yes I am. Well, Tom, it seems we'll make good friends, so long as you're not the type of Slytherin I hate. What do you mean? I mean the type of Slytherin that is unduly arrogant, his sense of superiority stems from blood purity, money, and family success, not his own merit. I hated those arrogant clowns as well. Yes, we will make good friends indeed. I've got to get going now. This was refreshing, Gohin. I'm glad Ginny introduced you to my diary and I hope to write you again. I enjoyed the experience as well. Bye Tom. Bye Gohin. Gohin shut the book. He seems like a decent bloke, but we can't trust him. He told Ginny. Ginny let out a morose sigh. She knew what he was getting at. He's been writing me all this time. I know, but I have to take the diary. It's for your own good. You told me yourself he's making you do weird things, think strange thoughts. I can't let you keep writing him, Gohin said. He honestly wasn't sure what to think of the diary. Did Tom really make Ginny kill the rooster? Was he really sapping her energy and making her depressed? Or was this all in her head? Had she just gone a bit batty after her breakup with him, Gohin, by making the mistake of pouring all her grief into a diary rather than actually talking it through with other people? He'd have to find out for himself. I know. Just promise me this, Gohin. Ginny looked at him pleadingly. Be careful around Tom. Of course, you don't have to worry about me, he waved off. Now come here, give me a hug, and it better be good. Ginny smiled and gave the Saiyan one last hug. BBZHP. It's so good to be home. His house was near, so he decided to walk the rest of the way. Gohin felt better than he had expected to feel. He felt a peace he never felt at Hogwarts, and this peace filled him with joy. As he got closer and closer to his house, his excitement grew. Boy did he miss Mom. He began to dash home. He couldn't wait anymore. A brilliant flash stopped him in his tracks. Huh? The flash dimmed, revealing a time machine. Don't tell me it's Trunks' briefs, in the flesh. Trunks stood at the top of his time machine. He jumped gracefully into the air and did about 100 front flips. Once he landed in front of Gohin, he took out his sword and took about 1,000 stabs and swings at the air. Who? Huh? Ha. Trunks grunted and then sheathed his sword. Last, he flicked a bang of hair with his thumb and shot Gohin a confident smirk. So, how was it? It took me a few days to perfect. The babes dig it. Yeah, it was great, Trunks. Of course it was. Trunks sighed deeply. Even I surprise myself at times with my sexiness. So what brings you here? I'm here to save your ass, bro. Trunks briefs put his time machine in his capsule and grabbed Gohin by the arm. They had a lot of work to do and no time to waste. Thanks for watching. My hard work succeed here.